All right, good morning, everybody. This is Bill Canada, County Commissioner. It's Wednesday, June 2nd, 2021 at 9:30. 9:30. No, it's 9 o'clock Wednesday morning. I'd like to remind everybody to silence your phones if you haven't. This meeting is recorded on both Zoom and on our official recorder here in the room. So I'll call this meeting to order. It's 9:02 now. Actually, it says 9 on mine now. What's yours say?
9:01.
Okay, 9:01. We'll take hers. Let's say the pledge, please. And Bob, can you lead us?
Pledge allegiance.
Oh.
It's your turn.
Oh, is it? Yeah. All right, well, let's see it. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Bob.
Likewise, yeah.
Caught you off guard, didn't I? He just was happy, grinning, ready to perform.
First time I ever did that.
Yeah, I figured. Thank you. Okay, roll call, Kelly.
Commissioner Canada.
Present.
Commissioner Flower.
Present.
Commissioner Day.
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith.
I have patented this in attendance. Nobody else can use it. It'd be cultural appropriation as well.
And clerk to the board, Kelly Camper, currently present
Thank you, Kelly.
or presently here.
Present here. Clear and private. Danger. Audience introductions. Let's see. There. Okay.
Kayla Dane Wentworth. Reggie Foster, PIO.
Tina Jones, BOCC, BOH admin.
Okay, thank you. And you are also the Sergeant of Arms on the internet there for us. Thank you. And we will introduce anybody that's online. Is anybody new online or are we good?
We have a George Gramlich.
Okay, George is there. All right. And if anybody speaks up online, we'll introduce them at that time. Any amendments to the agenda, Tom?
I have none.
Okay.
No.
And I have none either. That's 2 days in a row. Approval of minutes, and I don't think we have any.
No.
Didn't see any this time, so good. Commissioner items. Kevin, you get to be first if you did anything of significance.
Just what I reported to you guys a little bit ago, the county guys down there in Wetmore are gonna see if they can fish that walk bridge out there by the community building out and check it out today. So they made me aware of that, so.
Whose bridge is it?
You know, Doug, the Hurley boys built that and put it across the creek. It spans half of the creek on the county side and half of it on the church side over there. So I know historically, every time it's washed off, the county guys have put it back up. So as far as ownership,
Possession is 9/10 of the law. Possession of resources.
the anchor cable is on the county side.
Oh, you don't just come in here and do that.
I'm delivering the basket.
Mr. Day?
Did you deliver the nice?
Look at that
See the basket.
I delivered
That's
the
an item that
basket.
you've got to report.
So you have to make
What
sure
is
that
it?
you approve the expense
Of the basket?
of the,
Well,
well,
that's up to Commissioner Day.
it's a lovely basket.
It does look lovely.
Yeah.
That's why I closed the door. I wanted to have time to say thank you.
Thank you.
And I would say thank you very much for your effort.
So I don't know how it works with what you're going to, but it has a $215 value.
Nice.
That's what they report that.
Oh.
And that's good.
About 10 minutes.
That helped drive up the bid.
Yeah.
They left it by Clint, it'd be empty.
I knew you were going to try to.
Is that kind of like an annual thing?
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll plan for it every
It's sort of
year.
a competition between counties.
Oh, it's a
There's some-
competition?
No, there's some, they grant prizes and they bid on it.
Oh,
It's a big deal.
well, let me know how it goes.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Debbie, thank you.
Debbie.
And for everybody online, that's the basket for the CCI conference that Kevin will be attending, and he's going to be the guy to present that. to the group. All the counties bring them. So there's 60, you gotta sit through 60, what is it, 4 baskets?
So, and also, I'll be taking a basket to CCI as well, since I'm still on my report.
Good deal. That it?
Yes.
Good enough?
That's
Tom?
Nothing to report.
Okay, the only thing I have, I just sent you all a note that I got from Frederick Poles, that Nate, he had sent us, I couldn't find it in any of my things. It was a description of some of the questions that we had been asking that had been transferred to them over the poll itself, and the hassle and all that. So it'll be useful for us to discuss tomorrow.
And I'm assuming at some point, we're going to have a discussion in this meeting about that, correct?
About
About the
what
poll.
we can.
I had it on the, my commissioner item, and you said, well, we'll talk about that later. And
Well, I thought that-
assume you meant we'd talk about it in a committee meeting,
Yeah,
but I think the discussion.
we
needs to
can
occur right
discuss
here.
it here initially, if it's fine. But I would like to do that. Well, it's hard to say, Tom, because we want to have, the workshop is a commissioner's workshop to understand and get the answers. Because I don't have all the answers for it. We can bring up what our issues are if you want to do that. That would be great. You want to do it at the end of the meeting?
Doesn't matter. It's fine.
Okay. Okay, by me. We'll do it then. Okay, anything else? I don't have any other items today. Mr. Attorney,
Jackie just brought me some documentation, the topic we discussed at last Friday's meeting about West Cliff Meats. Everything looks good as far as some paperwork that was brought in, and we'll report on that at the June 30 meeting. But I just wanted to say, I think everything is in order there. There's not any issues.
okay, so they're off and running, and we'll see what they apply for or do.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the airport.
Okay. Anything
Would you like
else?
to sit next to me? No, that's all right.
I'll sit next to Gayla, she's.
How about you, Tina? You got anything for us?
I have nothing to report today.
Thanks for being here again.
Here, I'll just leave this.
Okay, public comment, if there's any,
That's my table and rock it.
anything that anybody here wants to bring up, that's not on the agenda that we could consider at a later date or is a burning issue. Anybody? How about online? Anybody? I guess we just got George out there.
It's George.
Right. Okay, let's get on with the airport. The highlight of the morning.
The highlight.
Yeah, jump in there.
We've got double duty today, Bob.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, listen, we'll start off with the fuel cells.
Speak up pretty loud. You're okay there, just, you're all right.
So we had a fuel delivery on the 15th of May, 2,050 gallons. Okay, as the end of this month or May, 714.9 gallons were sold for a revenue of $26.80 and 91 cents. That leaves us with 1901 gallons. So things are looking good. Nothing sold yesterday. Go figure.
Wow,
Weather.
can't imagine why.
Yeah. So Al Lavender's building a hangar. It should be done at the end of this month and completed. That's the schedule. We also, I guess, there's some folks who are looking at three lots, 13, 14, and 15, which are the
On
lots
the end.
on the end that were filled.
Mhm.
They presently lease 23 and 24 right across the street. They want a bigger hangar.
Wow, they want to build a big one on.
Yeah. They'll lease the lots, but basically they want to see if they can put in a bathroom. So I don't know. There's been a zoning issue or if the, yeah.
So to speak on that, your well, I'll have to pull the well paperwork, but the well could be designated for the airport use only. So we're gonna have to look at the well, plus if you start that, you might have to have it metered because you're allowed so much water
Sure.
and stuff, but we don't usually allow restrooms in the individual hangars because of, we have the restroom in the access to another restroom, and that was the way it was designed. So once you start something like that, you're looking at some other possibilities down the road that the water usage is, so you better think ahead because if the well, I have the well report. Because if you want to put anything out there like a bar and grill, which would be nice, you might not be able to use the water.
You could
So-
put meters on each.
But I don't know if
Have
that's
to see
even
if it-
feasible.
We'd have to look
Because
into-
those wells were not enough property at the time. It was when the airport began, we had to do an undersized lot well. So
It
what
was
I'm,
adjudicated though.
no,
It's not now.
I don't believe that you have adjudicated well because it's not Quinta Verde. Is it?
It's a permitted well.
It's a permitted well,
But it's permitted.
but it might be permitted only for usage in that building.
We'll have to look at it.
And then you're gonna have to have an individual septic out there for every
Right.
hangar. So before you jump into the water, please,
Lots of, these guys can consider it and see what's feasible if you want it. That means your choice. I think it'd be nice to we gotta do it. A restaurant would be great out there because that brings people in and it gets employees to go to town and that kind of thing.
on something like this, you better think ahead for future plans, because if you're gonna put this
Right.
well in danger of,
Right, you can't get it too close to the well and you can't get it to where we can't use the well.
yes, exactly. So I'm just saying, don't agree to any of this because we'd
Right.
never have allowed it. You know, and even if it becomes a problem and I have a hangar way down at the end and I can't make it to the restroom, there might be a situation where we want to put another just restroom down at the other end.
Something like that.
Because I'm afraid, once you allow one hangar to have a septic, you're gonna be looking at everybody wanting to do it.
Unless you could figure out how you could tie all three of them together into one septic field. Because it's not like a residential area, you know, where you're not using it as heavy.
If you wanna go to engineering, yeah, that's
and that would
feasible,
be something
but
feasible.
you have a septic that's way up by the maintenance building.
You have to
And
pump
the
it,
tank has to be close to
right,
the rules say the tank has to be close to the hangar.
right.
It can't go-
You could bring them all to that tank and then go out to a septic field there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying things to look at and consider. A restroom at the end is a good idea. Or if you're building on the south side for big hangars, probably one down there.
Correct, but I think that the focus needs to be on what the airport was designed for.
Right.
And it was designed for hangars. It wasn't designed for hangars with restrooms. It was designed for hangars. But I do agree that if I have a hangar at the way end and I need to use the restroom, it would be nice if you had another restroom. But that would solve one big issue. But that would be on the county's toll
Right.
and not
That's
the
why they need
individual
to
toll.
decide what they think is
I'm
feasible.
just, but I'll look at the well information. I'm just saying that, I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm just saying you better do your homework before you say yes.
And they'll want an answer before they form up the floor so they can put all their stuff plumbing in if we're gonna allow it.
Right.
If we're not,
But this is an advisory board. You're the
Right, we'll
last
have to
call.
Well, we understand that, but we gotta have something logical proposed. You know, right now, we're just shooting from the hip on what do they want, what's really feasible. Let's see what makes some sense for to include what the future could allow. And if we want to do that before they start doing that, that's something, get with them and you guys come back to it.
how many wells can be on the airport property?
The two that they have.
That's it?
I mean, one that they have.
Thought there was enough acreage you were one time talking about.
We
putting
had
wells.
2 wells drilled, but one was capped to get the other one in, right?
look into it. Look on it. Don't speculate.
That one-
See what's been permitted and what's feasible to actually buy. You know, to get a augment.
Okay.
And they could augment it. What? Possible.
You know, I thought we talked at one point about, because of the acreage, we could do another well.
How many acres do
Possibly
you have?
two.
That's what I thought.
160 or something like that.
120. So we can talk about that as we go. We said,
Yeah. Need ideas, come to us
Is
with what
there
you're.
legislation about how many acres per well? Or is it one well per parcel?
One well per-
One well per parcel.
It depends on how it's.
So we don't care if you got 80 acres, you get one well.
Yeah, but
If you got 160, you get one well.
But you can
You could divide it up into
off and do that
35
if you wanted to.
and get a well per 35. If the state allow you. We need to find the well
yeah,
report.
that's what I thought we were thinking
Yeah.
before.
And I think, okay, I think there's like 4 parcels as well for the airport. As far as,
Up to where the hangars are sitting, you know.
well, yeah, certain little blocks like parcel A or, B, I don't know if that means anything. I'll bring you the paperwork.
Yeah, go find it. Let's,
He got scared of me.
what else do you have?
Must have been that journey I gave him like.
Is there anything else,
What else
Bob?
you got, big guy?
That's it.
That's it.
After all of that?
Okay, so we have the,
How's the frequency coming along? Hey, how's your phone line? How's the
I
AWAS?
spoke to the AWAS folks. They are waiting for the FAA. Apparently the COVID is slowing them down.
Got them behind the 8 ball, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I was told. So right now, we're waiting on a date for the schedule to get it commissioned. So that, not much we can do there, just wait. The fuel tank company that's manufacturing the 12,000 gallon tank, they received the check. Thank you. So that's underway.
Good.
And we're looking at 14 to 16 weeks for them to manufacture. That's about it.
And you're gonna build the pad for it.
Yeah, we surveyed we're gonna put in some bids for that this coming week or two.
Okay.
Okay, good.
But your question about as far as phone line and everything, we're up and running, we're all good.
Oh, yeah, everything
We're
was
just waiting for the FAA to come in.
And you're answering all the requests for the updates on the charts and all that stuff.
As soon as we get sanctioned, we'll do that. So.
Questions? Ken?
The only thing I had to add was that at our last meeting, we changed our bylaw to add another voting member,
What's that bring your total to?
11.
You can break a tie.
Yeah, and I think you probably need to submit that name to the BOCC to appoint that person, right?
I thought you did already.
Oh, yeah.
They did,
That's
it's,
right. It was before your meeting, but yeah.
that required a bylaw change.
Well, to put him on as a voting
Yeah.
member, it did. So,
Okay, good.
so other than that,
So I wonder if we need to vote to approve him as a member.
I don't know. I thought we approved, well, I don't know, by name maybe. That's what we've been doing.
We approved him in January, but obviously he wasn't in the mix in January, so. Yeah, I would move to approve the appointment of Brian Anderson to the airport board.
No, it's
Al Avenue.
Al.
Oh, Al, sorry, yeah. Al.
Brian was flying.
I was thinking about the 18th.
How do you spell the last name?
LA.
LA Avenue.
LA Avenue. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Al Avenue.
Yeah.
It was close.
Oh, and-
Yeah.
Okay,
Second.
been moved and seconded to accept the appointment of Al Avenue to the board, airport board.
L8 now?
Yeah, LA, like the letter LA.
So 2 A's in a row?
No, L.
Just
Avenue.
L
That's a
Avenue.
way to remember it, L Avenue.
Avenue.
Okay.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Kevin?
Aye.
Huh?
Aye.
Can die.
Okay.
So you got 11 real menus now. Good. Anything else? Because we keep milking it out of you, Bob. You milk the pledge. Okay. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Before we do anything,
Gentlemen?
Yeah.
thank you
Have a
guys.
Great day.
Braden out there?
Yes, he is.
Braden.
Good morning.
Is it me? Yeah, it's up to you now.
How are you?
Good, how are you all? You're to conduct this choir?
Conduct this choir. Let's have a little warm up, huh?
Did a good job, today.
Thank you.
What were you doing?
We were asked to sing at the Memorial Day ceremony. Sound Club. So
We got a finance officer that can sing high to.
yeah. Yeah, so it was a great ceremony. Did a really good job. Awesome. Well, just wanted to go through some of the things that have happened over the last month. Big one being CIC training. So invoice training was one of the things that we did. We gave an invoice training to everybody, at least all of the department heads or representatives of the department that will be working on the invoicing. So now all of the invoicing will be going through each department as opposed to everybody doing a voucher and then attaching it to an invoice and then sending it to the finance department to then fill out and put into the system. We're cutting out the step of that, and departments are putting that directly into the system. So that worked really well. Everybody was able to do that last month, and we've got a couple things to work out still. But overall, I was very pleased with how each department handled putting in their own invoices very quick in learning kind of that new system, and so a testament to everybody's willingness to get in there and do it, and to Mark's training. So that went
So how
well.
forgiving is it on a person that accidentally enters something?
We probably will have to fire them.
That's what I thought. So you want to make sure you train them up.
Right, exactly. So it's pretty unforgiving. No, it's pretty easy to go in and
they can correct it.
yeah.
I know we had an issue with a check or two.
The individual won't be able to correct it once they've sent it. So once they have put it into a batch, if they've found a mistake within that, then they can go in there and delete that invoice out and redo it, or make just a slight change before they send their batch to us. So the process being that they put in their invoices into what's called a batch. And then that batch, by the end of the month or by the week before the last working day of the month, they will approve that batch. Then we go over that again. And what we've been doing is just going in and spot checking certain areas to make sure everything matches with the invoices. So if they miss something, we're trying to catch it. And as opposed to, I think the way the workflow has changed, it allows us not to just be trying to put everything in as quickly as possible. It gives us some time to actually go through and make sure things are going where they need to go. That's good. So I'm appreciative of that extra time to be able to catch those things.
So will we still have some handwrittens popping out?
Yep, we won't call them handwrittens. We'll call them out of cycle checks because
The things come up.
Yep, exactly. One thing I would like to see there is some sort of ratification process. I don't know what that's looked like in the past, but
We've done that in the past. We were supposed to do it every time, but I think we kind of got off the track there, but.
That's right, we did, because we approved. Well, the individual commissioner would certify it, but we would never look at it as a board.
right. Yep. So I would like to be able to show what was out of cycle and then have the entirety of the board
Could do that.
vote on that, ratify that.
Ratified last month.
Yep. I think that makes sense. So it would just be another another bullet point before the approval of the expenditures.
Sure.
I think that would be great. If it please the board.
Whatever you recommend, and we'll figure out how to pick it apart.
Okay, appreciate that.
From the trainings I attended, it seemed like Mark did a great job. He was pretty user friendly and
He's a nice guy. Good guy.
Yeah, that was, and I think everybody asked really good questions too. I think we worked through a lot of the bugs on the front end, which is exactly how I would hope that would work. So we've got a couple since then, but I think on the front end, we caught most of the bugs that were coming through. So it was a good, to me, that's a good training. If we can put out the information we think needs to happen, and then people are able to say.
When are we gonna disable Hal and kill him? Remember
After this,
2001?
yeah, this
Turn him
month.
off and he's gonna die.
Yeah, we'll sing Daisy at the end of that too. Just,
And it happened at the end of the month.
yeah, so that's the official cutoff for all sides. We're done with him as far as it goes. The assessors and the treasurer's office are still using the ACS system.
Are they really?
Not just because they need a few things from it in reporting and such.
Oh,
I can't speak to that as much as they can.
so you're gonna coordinate so they're not stuck waiting for something that will never come.
They should be planning that to where that won't be the case.
They know that.
Yeah, they know that. Yeah, so, but as far as finance, HR side of things, we have all the information pulled that we need to, and we're, as of last month, completely in the CIC system.
and his training was included in the contract that we originally purchased.
Yes, but the expenses of being here were not. Those are separate invoices. So any lodging, meals, while travel while he's been here is a separate invoice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So
Really?
we're roughly $2,000 a week, I think is what that came out to.
I mean, we,
3.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't address that in the whole contractual thing,
that
but
should have been.
I thought training was all included, but
The training
too
was,
late now.
Not the per diem word and such. Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. So anyway, that just a little visual for what the workflow is looking like as far as the invoices go. This is something that will be given out to everybody. Sure. But that's
Thank you.
that's what the process looks like. So somebody getting an invoice and then putting it into CIC, approving their batch, emailing the invoices so we do have a backup copy, and then receiving and sending checks. So
There's a CIC chart.
this is one that I created.
You could, gotta add ratification into the out of cycle or something. Everybody knows it's part of the plan.
I
Approving
think,
a batch. Once that's approved, there'll be others that'll come up.
yeah, I think for the ratification side or for the out of cycle side of things, I would rather them try to do this as best they can. And the ratification, yeah, be more of,
more of a
we'll work with you to make
internal
it.
thing, huh?
Yeah.
This goes out to all the departments.
Yes, this would just be for department information, how they should plan out their month for getting invoices in.
Look good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think if you put that on this, then that gives them the option to.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
I can screw up.
I'd rather have it in the back pocket if we need it, but not make it the rule necessarily. So anyway, that is what that's looking like. The other training that we did was for Time Clock Plus, so that's more on the payroll side of things and getting hours in from each department, especially for hourly employees, but it is for everyone. The putting in your hours is not required of everyone. That is something they're welcome to do. But as far as keeping track of holiday, or not holiday so much, but as sick and vacation comp time, that's where we keep track of that for everyone, is through the Time Clock Plus system. So again, I think that training went really well.
Say it slower. Time what?
Time clock
Time clock.
plus. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a
Like time clock.
time plug. Yeah. So so that system I think is pretty user friendly. It's got a lot of options in there. And that's one of the nice things about it is each of the departments are getting to customize that kind of to their situation. So for example, while my suggestion would be if a department can truly make it to where their employees clocked in and clocked out, there's a website that they go to, they enter in their employee code, they enter in their PIN number, and they press clock in, and then that clocks them in for the day at that time. And then they go in and do the same thing to clock out. That to me is putting the most onus and accountability on the employee, and that's allowing the most accurate keeping track of time. That being said, I know that there's a lot of situations where that's not possible. And so, for example, like the sheriff's department coming through people that are living out of county, clock in as soon as they get to the county line, which they might not necessarily have reception for. So for those folks, they get the ability to go back in and change or put in their time. It's editable for them.
So are they required to do it immediately or at the end of the week? Rectify, just fill out a time card basically for the week.
Up to the department. For as far as I'm concerned, all I need is people's hours to be able to get them paid. I would suggest that, that's a daily or at the very longest duration, a weekly thing where people put in their hours. Because again, every day we get away from putting in something, the more chance we have for error there. So whether intentional or not. And then so sheriffs kind of have that issue to deal with. The nice thing about the system is they can put in, so a deputy can put in his time, the sergeant can then approve his time, and then at the end of the day, Robert or Shannon can approve the entire time sheets for the department. Yep. So there's a lot more, there's a lot easier oversight as far as that goes. And I'm hoping that's going to result in less errors. I'm not saying that there were a lot before, but I'm saying there was a lot of chance before for error between putting something in and just one person keeping track of that. So I think that's moving in a good direction. There's still, I would say, some kinks to work out as far as that goes, making that more smooth for everyone. And it's just something new to get used to. So we're trying to make that happen. Mm-hmm. But overall, I think it's going to be a really good system. So those are the two big training pieces and on CIC, and then the little things that we found throughout, just trying to make sure that everybody was set up the way they're supposed to. Mm-hmm. So any questions on CIC training?
Nope, covered it very well. Thank you.
Mark, just a shout out to Mark Zeltner, who was here for those 3 weeks. I think, like you guys alluded to, he did a fantastic job, and really appreciated his time and patience and helping everybody get where they need to be on things, especially our department. So that went very well. Next up, payroll and accounts payable. So last week we had 3 things going on, at least 3 things going on simultaneously. The training, getting payroll and accounts payable out, and the audit. So it was a little bit to process last week, but payroll and AP went really well. This is the last month that payroll we have to be hand entered. So everybody had to submit their time cards, and then we had to hand enter it on our side. From here on out, the time clock plus system will automatically pull that over. And so that'll be a big time saver, and hopefully, again, more accurate because everybody's getting to see what's happening on their side. Especially accruals. I think that's a big thing to bring up is that for the accruals, I'm not sure if this came out on you all's pay stub, but for those of us that have sick and vacation time, it prints out right on the pay stub. So
Know what you've got in the bank.
so you know exactly how much you get in there.
And we talked about it in one of those trainings, and that available column is gonna have a cap on it, right? It
Yes.
cannot go above 240 and 380 or whatever.
So that is in place as of this pay. Everything happens at the pay date. When the check is cut, that's when everything happens. So if you've hit a cap or you're about to, or if you hit a cap, that's when it cuts you, is at the pay date.
Right.
That's when you accrue. So while you're getting 8 hours this month, you're not able to use it because it happens at the pay when the check is cut. And so that's kind of the time frame as far as that goes. And let's see.
Who enters comp time?
Comp time is up to the manager within the department.
They'll decide and then just enter it on that person.
Yep.
And send it forward.
It's defaulted to go to overtime. So everybody gets paid out overtime unless they request otherwise.
Where does overtime show?
Overtime will show up in the actual pay. Yeah. So you'll just get paid time and a half for that.
So there's no way to know how much overtime a person's working in a month. If I asked, how much time does Kevin get of overtime? I know he.
I could tell you pretty quick.
Yeah.
If you wanted to know, I could go back and say, this is how
So you
much
should ask it
person got.
and add it all up. I mean, it's already stored.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
On that, I was just gonna, I know on our old stubs, it showed current and year-to-date on the overtime. This one will not.
It will, yes. So I don't have it on mine, but if there were overtime, it would show you how much of that income was overtime, at what rate, and then it will also show that year-to-date category.
So it shows the hours.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so this for a salaried person is gonna be 1 hour at this monthly rate. For somebody that's hourly, it's going to show $21 an hour for 176 hours. And then it's going to give you that amount. And then it might say 10 hours overtime at $32 an hour. And year to date is X amount.
And time and a half is the generally accepted rate for overtime.
Yes. And what's in our policy?
Any exceptions to that, do you know?
Not off the top of my head.
I wasn't aware of any, but I thought maybe there is.
Yeah. The only thing would, right, and there's some bigger policy discussions that need to be had regarding holidays. But as far as overtime goes, the only other thing I could think of would be the switching to comp time, which you would then get an hour and a half comp time in lieu of 1 hour overtime. So. Yeah.
So if the sheriff's office employees work a holiday, there's still time and a half if it's overtime.
If it's overtime, yes.
Not double time because of the holiday.
No, we don't have anything in our system that would be double time at any point.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions on payroll?
That's good steps. I like the system.
One of the moves I would like to make is going from paper pay stubs to email pay stubs. And so we have the ability to do that. Again, saving paper and time. Everybody would just get their, as soon as payroll is completed, everybody would get an email with this exact information. And then
Does everybody have email?
for anybody that has email. And then we will
You'll
still
know.
print out for,
You don't have to
yeah.
case by case.
Yeah, the system works out pretty well where we can just send out a blast email, click of a button for everybody's information, and then another click that prints out who doesn't have an email.
Where is it all backed up?
It's all backed up in two places, on the program itself, on the server itself, and then in another backup location.
Physically, not in a cloud that we're paying for.
One is a cloud, I believe. Yeah, one of them is a cloud. One is the server, the physical server, wherever that's housed.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could be sat housed at CIC.
Could be in Greeley. I don't know if they have their servers in Greeley or where that's at, but so.
So are we at risk of a power outage then causing us to delay things because we don't have access to the data
Yes.
somewhere?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
If,
thought Mark had said, excuse me for interrupting, that they would also have a record of all of that in the Kansas office, right? Maybe he meant, or I misunderstood, maybe it was in Greeley, but
yeah.
somewhere that CIC will have a record.
Yes.
Every
yes.
transaction.
Yeah.
Every, as he pointed out, every keystroke.
Yeah.
And they're on the-
Every keystroke in two places.
And I'm under the understanding too, that at a certain time that they're gonna keep that. Or is it forever? Contract.
As long as we have that information for forever.
We do here, but
Well, and we can pull
pull
back
back
up.
that information.
Yeah.
As long as we're using their system, right?
Right, exactly.
They're obligated to do it. Is there a monthly fee we're paying?
I'd have to look at that. I don't know if that's, there's not something separate from the yearly contract, but it might be something within
It's
the
embedded
contract.
in that contract.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't looked into the details of that.
Okay.
Ask a question.
Go ahead. Is there,
Braden,
Yeah.
if you're gonna start emailing, or check stubs, can we do it to personal emails instead of, so that if we get a core request, it's not, that's just something to think about.
Sure. Yeah, that's,
Might be better to personal instead of our work emails.
that's what I would like to get is everybody's personal email in our personnel system. To me, that's going to be more valuable at the end of the day, because if somebody quits, we still need to be able to
Right.
get a hold of them and get that out to them somehow. So,
and the actual data is
Yeah.
on the county side anyway, so there wouldn't be any reason I couldn't do that. You know, and at risk of losing it because you lost your personal computer.
Right, I was just concerned about core requests for
Yeah, I
emails.
understand. And it'd be hard to go out and get it separately.
yeah. And the way I understand that, because I did have some questions regarding W-4s coming through the email. And it would be my assumption that while somebody could pull that information, that there is personal information that have to be redacted in that process. So, so that would be something I would look to the back for and so forth. But that's the way I would understand it, because while there's public information, personnel information would
It's
not
not
necessarily be that way.
I don't know though that, I know the Social Security, the Air Force and others send it through a encrypted system.
Mhm.
You don't have to redact anything.
Yeah.
And I think, depends on what, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. I
I've
know.
never seen it redacted.
And that's something I'm a little curious about in our system is, for example, from CTSI, the county provider for insurance and such, we get secure messages
Right.
from them. Is that some sort of system that we should have as well when working with people, or should it be hand delivered?
That's
Or
possible.
so?
I know companies do that. Lockheed and Raytheon did it when I was working for them. What do they call it? There's a name for it, but
We call it secure email.
yes, yeah. Whatever. Something to think about.
Yep, for sure. And then accounts payable, that's all complete. Gave a report last Friday, and I know, for example, like the voided check, there was that looks a little weird on that paper.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like the check was ever voided.
Right.
It looks like there was 2 checks cut.
Yeah.
to the same-
And there were, so that is something that.
Well,
that
that's,
I
it
wanted
did
to-
show up accurately then.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't have known that one of those ultimately would have been voided by just looking at that.
So looking at the document, there was 2 lines, and both to the same vendor. Both were actual checks that were cut and not voided. One was one that was voided and then reissued. So that was what the note actually showed at the end of the day, is that there are actually 2 checks out that should be cashed.
Oh,
But one was
incorrect.
voided and then reissued.
So the 2 were correct, it just was wrong.
Yeah,
So the
exactly.
one vendor in this case got 2 checks.
Correct.
And he needed it.
Yes, was supposed to get 2
it.
checks. Yeah. Yep, exactly.
I had Susie come in at the end of the day and sign a check copy,
Mhm.
didn't have the signature put on it.
Yep.
It went through the system and the bank caught it.
Yep.
So how did that happen?
There's 4 checks that get printed out for payroll that didn't make their way into the stamping batch this month. And so,
It was sent and cashed it, the bank cashed it, but then the auditor at the bank said, well, it's not been signed.
caught that. Yeah.
So they
So,
took a copy of the actual check.
yeah, so that was just a mistake on our part, but that'll be,
It wasn't a computer problem.
no, that was just 4 checks that weren't in the right pile. So yeah, and moving forward, that won't be an issue. Last thing is just the audit. Audit started last week, and would say that's a huge learning curve and a huge just thank you to Vernon who was taking point on that while I was working on AP, payroll, and training. So he's done a really good job of trying to get information together. I will say it's not been easy getting information from departments, which I think we need to have a conversation about. How do we do that better? How can we as a department help other departments get that together? But as Sam pretty much has tattooed on all of us now, they're not asking for anything that we should not already be keeping. So, and have ready to just pull.
Found everything, it just was hard to get.
Yeah, some have found everything. So
Right.
so that's something that I want to put out there. It's something we need to fix. It's not any sort of
Well, it begs the
comment.
question, when was that audit scheduled
for
for us? When was that like months ago? We knew they were gonna come on this.
No, we didn't. Yeah.
See, because coming in the middle of a transition kind of wasn't cricket to me, because you were learning the system. We had files scattered all over Kingdom Come. We didn't know where Donna put some things. We didn't know we had a BOCC admin transition. Things were getting organized.
Yeah.
So it was a difficult time to have the audit.
Yeah.
They come the same time every year. And so they probably didn't realize that.
Yeah, maybe
were
we should have
transitioning
realized
to
that
a
and
system.
headed them off.
Well, I would say that I okayed them coming at the end of the month because I wanted to have a time where it was overlapping with Mark being here. Because
Because you wouldn't have been able to answer their questions on something.
Because if I needed to pull a report for them, I wanted to have somebody that knew exactly how to pull that report. So I did encourage them to come at the end of the month while Mark was still here. So there was some sort of, so we can ask questions too, moving forward for next year. Hey, what reports do you need? What should we be keeping on file? What can we just do in the computer? And so we did have that meeting last week as well, which was helpful, knowing how do we do this better in the future? And then as far as pulling information, they decided that they were going to give us another week because we weren't able to provide them with all the information they needed up front. So they're out this week, but will be in next week. So that's when our last ditch effort is to make.
So
sure
is there a lot of stuff in limbo right now?
There's a couple places where we still need to get that, so.
You know, and it's not, I mean, we had issues in here. It's not always a department issue.
No.
We were struggling getting information from,
Grants.
in this case, it was the broadband stuff. Maybe we should have all of that, but in this case, we didn't, so we have to rely on somebody else to provide us the information.
Right.
We have to anyway, but it just happened that Tina didn't even know that they were gonna want something. So when he shows up and says, hey, I need this, then we gotta go track it down. Well, it may not be in this office, it may be somewhere else. And I think he understands that. I went down, talked to him a little, and I said, you know, we're just struggling getting the information from someone else.
Yeah.
Can I speak to that a little bit?
Sure.
So back when John Naylor was the attorney, so it's been a while, the commissioners came up with, I can't remember if it was a resolution or if it was just, it was some, I have the piece of paper. And it went out to all department heads, all the, like
Office.
broadband, any airport, any things like that. If you have a grant or you have an agreement or something that involves money and signatures and all that, you have got to get a copy to me, to my office. That's where the board wanted everything filed at. So that, because there was a problem with the auditors being able to get that information from these offices. So that went pretty good for a couple of years. Then probably 5 years ago, it went downhill and we sent out the memo again. And the last 2 years, it's completely fell apart. And I don't feel like if we can change that where maybe your office is in charge of getting all that, because I feel like the auditors get upset with you guys and you get upset because it didn't happen. And I think that the different offices need to know the importance of keeping your grants and stuff. And I try to keep on top of that and tell people, hey, here's your grant back. Like when you guys sign something, here's your grant back, but you got to give me a copy of it when you get that last final signature. And I never see those back.
You have room to store them?
No, I don't.
And that's what
I don't have room to store them. So a lot of times those grants and stuff are electronic anymore anyway. So I have them send them to me. Public health is really good about sending me. Rhonda's, every grant, she just sends it to me on the computer. I store it on here. I put it on a jump drive. I give it to the auditors when they come. And so that works perfect.
You have a backup for that
On
your, I mean, you said it's stored in your computer.
yeah, I don't have it's
Need to back you up if that's the case, because that's the only record we can have.
Yeah. But those offices should have the record too. I mean,
Right.
I have a couple grants. I have a file
Right.
with grants.
Each office
in it.
ought to have their own.
Yes.
For sure.
Well, it's all gonna be backed up on the county server, right?
Only if it's put there, only if the data is put there. What we're running into, and I was gonna ask the question, what we're running into is the boards don't
Yeah. Good
either
point.
store records, they don't scan the records, they just sign the documents and
Some of them don't even have a computer and doing anything.
And this is true. So this is what we're running into is that a lot of the boards out there, the county boards are not keeping records. They can give me a check and they can give me a voucher for spending the money, but they can't even give me a signature on when it was approved.
Well, maybe we should, as a
So-
county, give every board a computer. I mean, it's gonna cost some money.
I don't
We
feel
gotta
like it's
keep
about a
records.
computer. It's about, they have computers.
People doing
It's
their
about,
job.
Well,
it's about
they got-
doing the proper documentation.
And get,
Yeah.
well, they need to understand that, I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I want to stress, it's not us that's asking for the information. It's not the auditors that are asking for this information. Most of these grants go through the state or the feds.
Right.
And what was described to me is that if the feds come down or the state comes down and says, I need your records, If you can't produce those, they say, give me your money back.
Yeah.
So
Good.
it's really important.
Yeah, I wonder if a couple things. One, you kind of hear through the grapevine that the auditors are coming up. I don't keep track of the day they're going to show up. I see them, I go, oh, you guys are in town. If we knew that and then sent a directive out to all the departments, number one, to say, the auditors are going to be here on this date, be prepared, for you to come ask for some information. But even more important, it'd be nice to have a checklist to say, this is what you need to be prepared to give the auditor.
Mhm.
Not just you, I'm talking about the department heads. And then we would hope if they say, okay, all of your grant numbers, all of the grant amounts or whatever, then they can start digging that up and have it ready.
Yep.
I mean, that's where we don't think about a grant when it's mid-cycle and all of a sudden, bam, oh, now we got to go find this or that. So I don't know what all those auditors want, but surely we could come up with some kind of a checklist or something that might help. I don't know. It just seems like it's frustrating to everybody when they're scrambling around on a Wednesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon trying to find something that the auditors are looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. No, my knee-jerk reaction to this situation has been next year, March 1st at the latest, people can start putting stuff together.
Yeah.
And then by the end of April, that's 2 months, then my office should be able to have everything. And then by the end of May, beginning of June, the auditors will be here and it's all set and ready to go. There's a couple peripheral questions that need to be asked, they can be, but otherwise we've got it all together and it's ready to move forward, from that point. But that's going to be, yeah. And like you said, having a checklist, which would be helpful to be able to see that. But back to Vernon's point too, if the state showed up, we don't have time to try to scramble and find that information. It should be information that they can just open up a file or pull it from the computer and say, here it is. So that's I know it's going to take us time to get there, but that's where we would need to be in my estimation of it.
Yeah, I think about this landfill grant. There's no paper copy of that. It's all electronic. And then it ends up either Tina is the caretaker of that or Joni, or there could be 3 or 4 people in this case, but somehow to kind of streamline.
We need to streamline it, that's for sure. You're right. And we hired Tina as a grant keeper as part of the job. Maybe we just got to get serious so everybody knows what's going on, who's doing what. And maybe you could help suggest that. And then we can, I think that's sort of a policy on how we keep records.
Absolutely.
So I had a question on how we are rolling the issue we had with starting people on the new system and holding 2 weeks worth of payback, and you got that solved, I think.
So we have what needed to be done is done, as far as we have shifted the pay cycle from the 16th of April to May 15th. So everybody's paycheck this last month was based on those dates. And so any discrepancies they found in their paycheck were because it was shifted, as well as the fact that insurance, we only assessed insurance at half because there would have been doubling up there. Any sort of deduction that somebody has,
Right.
we halved.
So they knew that.
So they, yes, sent an email went
Okay,
out
good.
letting everyone know that. Went to department heads to share with their people. So anyway, that's how that happened, as well as accruals. So sick also only accrued 4 days per person last month because that second half of April was already accrued.
Right.
So, but moving forward this month, everything will be back to the way it's supposed to be. And then we have to discuss on how to reconcile that on the county's end.
Well, that's good because even my credit union, Air Academy Federal Credit Union, had a new system put in, and we got two statements, one through half the month on the old system, another brand new statement that covered the other half. So that kind of thing happens.
Yeah, yep. So, yep.
And so that's a discussion we still need to have on how we reconcile.
Covered.
Yep.
So the auditors are happy next year.
Yep, exactly. Like I said, the last ditch effort's gonna be budget.
Yeah, and
It's
that's
gonna be
what
that by the time we're getting to budget, but I'd
We'll
like
be
to get
discussing
more
that
over
here soon, preparation mid-year or September time before we're gonna do the actual process in October. So we need to get ready for it.
And we don't have that scheduled at this time, do we? So we need to schedule a time, I think, to address that.
Just a quick,
Yeah, I would guess Braden probably ought to drive that.
yeah,
Are you talking about the budget or the?
I'm referring back to the reconciliation.
reconciliations, but we could do that during a budget discussion. There's two ways we can have a separate one, or what we did in the past was get a summary of where we are in the mid-year and take a look at it in preparation for the next year as well.
Absolutely.
Anyway, something to think about. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be whatever, but we do need to finish it like Kevin said.
We do, because depending on how we go, this could take 6 months or so to reconcile. So
Yeah.
probably sooner rather than
Yes.
later, I would say.
What would you see as the next step? I could see two ways. Either this is another workshop where we were able to discuss that a little bit further, or I also think we need to bring in the department heads or
It should be a
representation.
meeting like that, and with the proposal, you got two options. I thought one was we finance it up front, or it comes off the back end, or whatever. Maybe you got a hybrid.
Yeah.
But that would be the way to handle it.
I think a workshop with the BOCC and department heads would be the
Yeah,
next step.
we call it a workshop because
I
we
would
make a
agree.
decision. Well, we'll all three be there. Maybe it's a special meeting if we're gonna try to resolve it then. Otherwise, we're gonna drag it into another meeting.
Would we
Probably
like to do that
For the June meeting.
end of June meeting?
Yeah.
So that afternoon?
That afternoon would probably be a good time to do it because everybody's here.
So that would be June 30th at 1:30.
But if we
Workshop.
needed something out of the workshop to be dealt with a meeting, I was thinking we'd have the workshop before a meeting, so if we had to make a decision at a meeting, we could do
Well,
that.
I'd rather call it, maybe it's a special meeting, Tom, because then we don't have to go into another meeting. We can, it allows us to do that.
Can you, since you've got a meeting that day
Just
already,
continue it.
can we just adjourn
Yes,
before lunch, then come back?
with that as the only topic.
Or even come back into a workshop and then continue your if you're gonna decide something,
Yeah.
you can continue after
Yeah,
the
we-
workshop
That's a great idea.
and either make your decision or just adjourn the meeting.
Mhm. Yeah, we could recess for the lunch, start again
In your
on that workshop, then move into a meeting to, if there's a reason to keep that meeting alive. So we
Or
don't.
recess, yeah.
That can be a closed workshop, Clint,
Yes.
which I think it should be.
Mhm.
At 1:30.
We'll recess and then go into that workshop and then come out of the recess.
We'll call that a finance workshop.
Yeah.
At 1:30, is that?
1:30.
That work for you, Kevin?
That works for me.
Good.
Awesome.
And then are we gonna schedule, if we just take a recess, then we don't need.
You don't need to reschedule the meeting because we're gonna go back into a real meeting and make a decision. Yeah.
We might have a slot on the agenda for that.
For
If we
recess.
need to.
To consider actions out of the workshop.
And what's the workshop gonna be titled?
Finance.
Just finance?
Yeah.
So can we put a line on the agenda then, Kelly, about recess?
Actually, See, we
So
don't have to
people
put a line
would know.
for recess, do we? We
But
can
we can just put consideration of,
put consideration of workshop, potential workshop.
maybe I can make a
Decision,
note on.
and then
there
take a
somewhere
recess.
that we're gonna
That's what I
recess
was
for a
getting at.
workshop.
We'll take the recess.
I had a couple of quick questions, and I think Tom probably answered my question the other day at our meeting, but I just thought I'd bring them up anyway, just to make sure. On the public health I'm on 29 and 30 pages. We had a lot of reimbursements. And Tom thought that probably was in regards to the lack of the credit cards working at that time.
Correct.
Okay.
And that may trickle into this month. We're going to set it up to where there is a single check printed for every department. So Office Depot, for example, will get, 6 or 10 checks. That way there's no ifs, ands, or buts about where this money goes.
That was 29 and 30, I
I'm
think.
gonna let Brady look here so he knows what, I'm sure he probably knows anyway, but
Yeah, the reimbursements too.
yeah, it's nice to have this format. Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
That other it was hard to go find something in the meeting, say, well, I have a question about this, let me look, and it was tough. So really appreciate this format.
And my other question,
So for Wetmore Community Center.
yeah,
Okay, so I figured that one out, and
The secret cone of silence.
right. So what had happened is in the conversion, there were department numbers that transferred over. What ended up being underfunded courthouse on the income side matched exactly with Wetmore Community Center on the expense side. And so those ended up clashing. It should be underfunded courthouse, and that has been changed now to where it's not the Wetmore Community Center. It's the underfunded courthouse where it's supposed to be.
okay. I just thought I'd ask, because it showed the capital improvement fund.
Yep.
Um,
Which it was the correct fund. It was just named wrong.
It was
That
just
all-
named
all
wrong,
that it
so-
was.
But,
Yep.
I was thumbing down through, and how come Wetmore paid for that pool?
They're the rich kingdom.
For example, these were individual checks written in Napa.
And
Because we don't have check numbers on here,
No, it
so I didn't know,
No, Napa,
typically will they
this,
now get one check?
currently in this month, they got one
Okay,
check.
okay.
Yes,
This just shows the transaction, the invoices.
right, yeah. We're still trying to figure out what's going to be best moving forward, but this month if it was the same vendor number, then they got one
One
check.
check, okay.
Okay, we need to move along. Is there anything else, Brady? I like the idea.
Nothing else for me.
Workshop, we'll have that recess. We'll get things ironed out. Good job of pulling all this other together. Any
On
other
on
quick
the
comments?
agenda, you didn't say what you wanted consideration of. What do you,
It's consideration of action items from the workshop.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to also publicly compliment you. You dressed nice, very professional. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Saw you walking across the street yesterday. And
thank
I
you.
got
Way to
there
go.
goes our county. Yeah,
Yeah.
just appreciate it. It's noticed. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You look sharp in the choir too, I have to admit.
Thank you.
See you later.
All right, come on. Let's see. Burns here.
Good morning, everybody.
Just quickly, before we get started,
No.
we're going to talk about it.
Talk about the report. The report is, we can, Vernon's here. The treasurer's report, how did that happen? We had it with a sheet. And I haven't seen anything since. And we didn't vote on anything. So do we have it?
You didn't get
No, we
anything.
didn't get anything from them. So I don't know what they were thinking, to tell you the truth. At the last meeting, there was a.
You know, she has been gone and she, I know that they rely on some of that stuff that they get from my office, which since we had everything on Friday and then she's probably not got it done yet, I would imagine. So it'll be like last.
Virginia here today?
No, she's
No.
not.
Yeah, it's, that one that we saw before was an old one. I don't know why it was even in here.
So maybe I can put it on the 16th. Oh, we're not gonna have the
No.
16th.
It's okay because we decided we don't need it every
Don't
month,
need it, yeah.
but we
But you
need
still
to make
need
a
it.
process. We're only obligated to do it twice a year from what I understand, but we made.
But she has to give it to you every month.
If we could at least get it, make sure it's included in next month's report, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what I can do is I'll just put it on
just put it on
the
the,
end of this month.
yeah,
Yeah, I still think it'd be nice to have a face-to-face. In this case, we could have asked her, how's the transition going?
yeah, and whether the treasury got the Fed's money.
Excuse me, 492,000 was deposited there,
Is that
yes.
in one lump or
Yes.
is that
All came
half a
in.
payment?
That's
All
a half
came in.
payment.
That's half of it, I think.
Yes, the other half's supposed to be sometime in July.
I thought next year.
I was-
Look at my note.
I was told next May.
Yeah,
Oh,
Week
I
a
think
year,
it's next
Yeah.
year.
interesting.
Originally so, but then I think Tina's referring to an email that I received as well that says that it will be here later this year.
Yeah, I saw that email and I was confused by it. I didn't think anything about it because I thought we had it. Okay, let's hear from Vernon here.
Good morning, all.
Hello, how are you?
Don't have much to report. Braden hit on most of the salient points of the last month or so. Just moving along with the audit and continuing with the conversion. I'll be continuing and working with finance through this month, just ironing out a few little wrinkles that we found, like, for instance, the Wetmore Community Center and a few other naming issues and going through the charts of accounts to make certain everything's correctly
I'd
filling
like to
out.
sing your praises, what Tom just said. You were critical in this because I
Thank you.
called you many times when it was needed for sure.
Yes, indeed. It's been
During
an
that transition
adventure.
especially, so.
And it's not done yet, but we're getting a good handle on it. We're getting a good handle on it. So then with the audit, it's been an education experience. We've really, Braden and I are really looking ahead and saying, how can we plan these processes so that A, there's not a single point of failure, and B, everything that needs to be done is documented in an easy and coherent fashion. So that's one of the things we're working on constantly. So what I have for IT is I'd like you for your permission to implement these two documents that you see before you. One is a request for IT services. And then the second page is a equipment requisition form. Basically, we want to document what IT is being asked to do, the type of work that we're doing, and to make certain that there's paper trails so that we can say, so we basically don't get blindsided 24 hours in advance for things that
You can't
require.
point fingers at anybody back and forth.
Yeah, we kind of have been blindsided with huge projects with minutes to spare, and we need to kind of change that a
Get
little
hold
bit,
of your schedule.
right? Especially with this tech being the only tech like it in the county. So some people might need it, and we'll have to have a waiting list if there's multiple departments needing at the same time. So
It's a work order request.
that we could change
That'd be
that.
a better way of saying it.
Okay.
That most companies.
We could go with work order.
Service.
And part of it's work and tech and part of it's actual,
Sure,
on-site
it
work.
covers,
So,
it
yeah.
covers both.
So we're going to, I'd like permission to implement that here. So that whenever someone needs something, they can write it out and it's written.
Are you gonna offer this hard copy and digitally, or should
Either
it
way,
just be?
either way,
digitally?
it can be a digital copy that's emailed to us.
Fillable
So,
PDF or
mhm.
something?
Right.
Yeah, or you scan
That's the way it is.
if they hand it to.
That's the way it is. Yeah, and we could do it that way, either way. I'm not interested.
Track of it.
I don't care about which way it comes to us, just as long as it gets to
I would
us.
support it. I think
Okay.
it's
I think
business.
it's a great
All right.
idea.
Okay. Thank you.
For somebody
You
to
know,
call
you
you
can
and
schedule your
say,
time.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
You-
indeed.
Question needs to come in
Hmm?
a week in advance or something like that, or
Over the last year, things have just really picked up. Things have changed completely. And,
I think it'd be a matter of priority. You can't, because something's gonna come up at the last minute no matter what.
exactly. And
So you
that's
gotta-
absolutely
You've
true.
got to shift everybody and
Mhm.
you know what's in the bank there.
Right.
but as a rule.
Yeah.
48 hours or?
Well, 48 hours would be good, depending on the level, or, if it needs new tech, we
Sure.
need to get new
But-
tech.
To
So,
need a speaker, to need
Yeah.
a microphone or something like that.
Yeah, order some equipment or something.
so
Yeah.
48, a week would be nice, 48 hours minimum. So,
Had a conversation the other day about the possibility, this kind of ties into it, of having an AV, I don't mean this literally, but an AV trailer or somewhere where we can store this stuff. If it needs to go to an offsite location, it could.
mhm.
I don't know, just
For what, Tom, is that?
for all this equipment for, if they needed to run to Lang Hall and set up something.
Oh, something to use to set up
Mhm.
somewhere.
May not be totally applicable all the time because it may have to be taken from one office. It might not always be stored in a trailer is my point, but
Yeah, there's not a huge amount of tech that needs to move unless we were to get a big screen TV or something. But even then, we can use a projector and a screen.
do we have a portable projection screen to take to another?
We do not have a screen. We have a projector. In most places, we will put them up on walls or
Some
something.
are pretty cheesy.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, just a thought, I don't know.
Okay.
That wouldn't be a bad idea, I guess.
Well, just, again, while we're on that whole thing, want to compliment your department. My God, I can't imagine staying on top of these Zoom meetings and number one, just to get the technology right and in place and work, and then have to stop your day to come babysit, whatever. And it happens in here probably more than anywhere, but just want to compliment you guys. You do a good job for that.
Not the way it works, but I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We live to serve and we just serve the way we can. Which actually brings up the last item I wanted to talk about. I talked about it individually, but I got the advice from the auditors that this needs to be something brought before the commissioners, right? My budget is going to be shot, and and basically it's because of salaries. So my salary, Jordan's salary, and then Reggie's salary. And the reason why Reggie is under IT was because a year ago when the position was created, my assistant was the PIO. And so the decision was made to put that as a salary in that location. With that all combined, my salary budget will be shot. So at some point in time in the near future, I would like to have a discussion about moving funds and creating an amended budget so that I don't go over budget.
Well, and the PIO doesn't need to be under IT either.
And if that's
sorted out, and because that position services all the departments and works as a liaison
right,
with other government.
if that's the way it needs to happen, then that would work out well too.
But in the meantime, you're gonna have to figure out where you're short.
Right, exactly. And I can give you better numbers. I was going to crunch them this morning, but something else landed on my desk. So, yes, sir.
In regards to that, now, I think in a discussion I had with you, while you are assisting Braden, your salary.
Salary is coming out of finance.
Coming
Yes,
out of finance there, so that did help some.
It did, yes, indeed. But preliminary numbers say that I will still be over because of the temporary raise that Jordan got and and taking care of Reggie's salary, the PIO salary. So I'll have precise numbers next time, next meeting, but just wanted to front load you that we need to have that discussion or figure out where the PIO salary should come from,
Right.
you know, and who has the budget for that as well. So.
This pops in regards to a statement you made a couple minutes ago as well then. You said in the last year, everything has greatly increased. How does that look in your office moving forward as far as you and Jordan being able to handle that as we were set up?
That would depend on the vision for IT tech and audiovisual work in the future. IT tech can be supported with my full-time position and a part-time position. If the position expands and becomes audiovisual work, then a huge amount of the time of the last month or two with Jordan being full-time has been absorbed as audiovisual work, which is completely outside of the spectrum of IT tech. So
Zoom calls are.
No, I'm not talking audiovisual. I'm not talking Zoom calls per se.
But I was wondering if that's part of it.
It's a little bit of it.
You might be referring to, because him and Reggie have done some advertising for the Justice Center and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And of that nature, and some of the requests that we're getting fall more in line with that than the IT history. Sure. So to answer your question, as the IT jobs exist as a job description, we can do it with one full-time, one part-time. If it's going to expand to include the rest of it, what it is, like I said, everything's changing. So if it's going to expand,
half-time or they're full-time.
We could Jordan could be full-time if that's the case. So
okay.
Something to think about in that regard. Or we could go with another half-time tech and Jordan becomes half-time audiovisual.
That'd be kind of crazy.
Yeah, that would really shoot that
button. Yeah.
Understood.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. Anything else for me, sirs? Gentlemen, excuse me.
Yeah, all our computers working now, our
Okay.
laptops. What's the word on the laptops? I understand you ordered some, or you didn't order some.
We have
no money, or you fixed some old ones.
I have fixed. I have rebuilt and ordered new. With the new system, department heads will be able to use their laptops that I got them to if they want to work from home. There are actually people working from home using the new CIC system now because the security systems involved. We can do that. We're not tied to this building.
That's great.
So it's a much better system.
So everybody will come into the third wave here.
You know what? You got me on that one.
You don't know what we're going to be.
Third wave?
Meaning that join the computer revolution.
Oh, okay. All right. Yes, absolutely. We are moving into the 21st century. Okay. We are all moving into the 21st century. Yep.
Whether we like it or not.
Any other questions, guys?
Thank you, sir.
Let's do AM and we'll take a break.
Thank you. Do you want them?
No, I don't
Okay.
necessarily.
Well, we can if we could. I'm just wanting to honor your time.
Yeah, I've got.
All right, let's take a break in 10 minutes here. That'll get us at 25 till on my official clock. Take a break. All right, we're back from recess. It's about 25 till 11. And we're here with the OEM report. Go ahead there, Adrian.
Okay, well, you have my written report before you. Year to date, I expended on paper 22.25% of my budget, but we still have about 14,000 in reimbursements pending. And so that'll lower that usage substantially.
Is it all reimbursements or is it partly grants that are funded as you
It's
request?
the EMPG grant reimbursement, and then the EOC and BOCC grant reimbursement. Will be expending those dollars here in the next couple of days to get the equipment for that, so we're ready to go. I just wanted this note on the weather that while we are getting substantial moisture in Colorado at this point of the year, there's 100-degree weather throughout the state of California, 100-degree weather in Oregon, 100-degree weather in Washington, and this moving out. So we're actually in a real good position, but we anticipate that the fire season is going to get off significantly in those three states here within the next couple months if they don't get something today, because temperatures are extreme. Drought conditions on most of the West Coast right now are extreme drought conditions. We are the exception. And so we might see rapid increase in activities in the Arizona, California, Oregon, and Washington. And so we're being briefed on that right now. So what does that mean for us? It means that if we have a fire here, those resources may not be available because they'll be shifted.
And we could be asked to help others.
That is correct. Just for your planning calendars, there are two planning events coming up later this month and in July. You'll see that on item number 28, or the date May 28th on the thing on my outline. The first hazmat tabletop will happen on June 30th, and that is a truck spill scenario that we're putting together.
Who's the we?
It's
Are you doing it?
Sheriff's Office, the Fire Department, Colorado State Patrol. And in this particular one, Acorn Petroleum is going to be participating with us. Yes, so they're going to be part of that truck spill tabletop. The next one for July 28th, just put that on your calendars. This is called The Wheels on the Bus Go Upside Down, and it's a bus accident scenario. And the same agencies will be involved in that, but an additional Horn Creek Conference Center will be involved in that because it's a scenario, because there's where the big buses are heading up. So they're going to be part of that exercise as well. And
You just want them out of your driveway. Don't tell me that.
no, I don't want them out. I'm glad that they're doing it. I'm really happy. And so they'll participate from the perspective of having some live bodies and it'll complicate things. So those are two workshops that we're preparing. The SEPA assessment, that's on May 25th of my report. It was long, it was arduous. But it opened my eyes to a lot of where we are and our ability to be able to work together and to have a better appreciation for what all the emergency management agencies in a county are capable of doing. We're better off than I thought we were, but there's also room for growth in that area. And I think that will happen over the next 2 to 3 years, and we'll be much better prepared for the assessment, I think, down the road than we were this time. That's not to say that we weren't. It was just a totally new process. And so Kevin and Tom, you both were there, and I'll be glad to hear your input on how that went from your perspective. But it was long, it was interesting. But I think most of us learned a lot from participating in that assessment. On May 27th, we started the process of doing a emergency operation plan for the county. It's a review tool that we use. And so that's another plan that we are starting to address. And so we will be not rewriting, but modifying and correcting the current ELP and using that particular tool. And I'll be consulting with my counterpart in Werfenau County because they've already kind of gone through that process. And so there's some things that they did really good in that particular county in terms of their disaster policy. And I'm going to not copy, but adopt some of those changes for Custer County, because I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. If there's a good tool out there, then I like to use it, but customize it for what we need to do here in Custer County.
And on the 27th, your HMP is your hazard mitigation plan.
Yes, the hazard mitigation plan process. Actually, he's on his way to Custer County now. And today we're just going to do a field tour to get the company that's doing the plan familiar with Custer County. So I'm just going to take him around and show him the different areas in the county so that he has a good idea of what Custer County is compared to Fremont County or something like that. So he'll be here about 11 o'clock. His name is Mike Gardner, and Mike will be his company disaster. It's going to be rewriting the plan for us.
He has a company, is he under contract with?
Yeah, he's under contract.
With us, we're
Yeah,
hiring.
he's under
He's the guy we hired.
He's the guy we hired.
So I see you're meeting with the feed store staff. That wouldn't happen to be at lunch, would it?
No. Okay, I guess I could change that time. But no, we met with, we're just looking for venues where we could have public meetings. And so I met with the feed store staff because they're a new business here in town. We want to support all of our business. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to support any one particular business, but we need an area that's big enough, and it's
Big enough, but can they divide it off?
Oh, yes, they can. Yes, they can. So they'll be able to do that. So that's why we met with the feed store.
Midday meetings or no?
Well, it's at your discretion. I
mean at the feed store.
Yeah,
is that
they're
an
open
option for
midday or evening.
Okay.
Or midday or evening. They're open to that because they can partition out, and these meetings would typically happen on a summer day. So they have that outside area that we could use, or we could use the inside, and they would shift their restaurant business to the outside. So and it can accommodate a lot of people in a comfortable kind of a setting. So that was the thought on that. A lot that's not in there. There's training on the local emergency planning committee. That's LEPC. The county participated in that about 5 years ago, but I will be participating in a workshop on September 6th through the 10th in Breckenridge that is funded by the LEPC committee. The LEPC rep would like to have either come to a BOCC meeting or to have a commissioner study session where he can come and brief you on what the LEPC is. And the L is local, and the E is Emergency Planning Committee. So he would just like to have an opportunity to brief us on what how that group should be operating. We used to have that here, but it's kind of fallen by the wayside, and the state would like to get us moving on that.
Would that be like the CES group or no?
It's kind of like a CES group, but no. It's
Smaller, or is it, sounds like it?
Well, it's looking at a county's and a region's emergency response capabilities. So it builds upon the CEPA process. It uses the CES group, but it's actually something that is more of a national program, sort of like the has mitigation planning process. So it's bigger than just a local group, but it's based on local groups. This is C. So he would like to come up, and if he could do that at a regular scheduled commission meeting, or I noticed that you guys talked about some workshops. Some places call it commissioner study sessions, where we can introduce things that you don't have to vote on or act on, but kind of know where we're headed with an idea. You can give us some direction. But it's not something that you would make a motion on and vote on or do something like that. It's more of an educational thing. And it's sometimes difficult to do that in a 15-minute, briefing. So I just ask that you consider these commissioner studies sections, and I apologize for that. So I apologize for that. I thought it was on dead.
You said you were going to that meeting in September.
Yeah, so it's in Breckenridge. It's paid for by the state. And my guess, I'm allowed 2 positions. And so Matt Nolting will be attending that workshop with me as well.
That's September what?
That is September 6th through the 10th.
Right in the middle of tree season.
Yeah, but I'll get mine by then.
Oh, okay. Talking to you.
Kind of bodacious.
Nah, but I'll be out there trying. Then in February of 2021, there is a emergency management workshop for all the emergency managers in the state, and that'll be held in Lakewood, Colorado. And that is, I thought I had
What months?
in February of 2021. I think that's like from the 22s. That is correct. So February of 2022, there'll be a workshop up in Lakewood, Colorado. And that is for emergency managers throughout the state. Another issue that's come up recently is the variable messaging, use of our variable messaging signs. We used the signs, I thought, quite effectively during the Memorial Day parade.
Yeah, it was nice to have some signs that we could control.
Yep, and so I'll be working on a policy of how, not local groups, but how county groups and agencies could use the signs.
Yeah, it's on our agenda today. Are you gonna be able to stay for part of that
Yeah,
conversation?
I can stick around. Let me just, like I said, I have that meeting at 11, but I'll stick around. But
Yeah, you and Reggie both.
yeah, we'll put something together. But I thought Charles actually did a good job. He requested when he needed it. He said his request was for the 75th West Cliff Stampede Rodeo. I even suggested a message, and his message meets the criteria for the sign: congestion ahead, rodeo traffic, slow down. And that's what we want in the signs. We cannot have long messages. They need to be quick, easily to read, and they get the message across. And so I thought he really did a good job on that. And so I have tentatively approved his use of that for the rodeo. We just need to have kind of a policy.
Right.
So that when people make their requests, it cannot be advertising though. It has to be related to traffic
Well,
safety.
That's
Yeah,
the whole purpose of this being on the agenda today, to make those decisions.
okay,
Yeah.
very
In
good.
this case, I happen to agree with you, but we haven't decided that.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, so.
And,
And we want to see what you got.
but this week, remember that our agreement with CDOT for placing signs in the right of way says no advertising.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's why.
I thought you
mentioned-
meant internally.
No,
I
no,
get you.
no, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Which is what when Charles first contacted me about it, I thought that's exactly what they were after.
Okay,
And I thought, yeah, I don't know about that.
No.
So,
okay. Very good. Let me just look through.
Unless it was an approved government thing, like a benefit of some kind. I mean, we'd have to discuss other exceptions that would, other than traffic kind of stuff.
I don't know if any of you on the 18th, did any of you receive the NOAA flood warning message alert? So that system was activated on the 18th because of flooding in the valley. I had not witnessed that kind of flooding. Kevin was involved in it. And so we received from 2 to 4 inches of rain during that storm event. So that was pretty
I
significant.
got it. I don't know why I have a NOAA app, but how's it broadcast? Because people are saying they didn't get it.
Well, it just depends on your location. It's kind of like an IPAWS alert. So it's not a wide area, it's geographically located. So if you were in an area that had a flood warning, then you would have received that particular alert on your cell phone. It's a cell phone warning system.
Right.
And so you would have received it on your cell phone. It's in many ways similar to IPAWS. It directly activates cell phones in the alert system.
Like the Amber Alert does. Like the
Yes,
Amber.
like an Amber Alert. Exactly. We did 3 workshops during the month of fire mitigation workshops. The Wetmore one was the most successful of the 3 workshops. West Cliff was good, and we kind of were not very successful with the workshop that we held at Lake San Isabel. But having said that, the Forest Service is quite active. They're doing community/cleanup days. And what those are is they have an identified location in the.
There's an off button, Butch.
They're looking for me. So.
Is that your person?
Yes. Yeah, Mike is. So I will, I'm trying to just shut this down.
It's okay, you're almost done.
So I just would like you to consider that concept of using a community/cleanup days for the wet Mountain Valley region. It'd be nice if we had a place where folks could do the fire mitigation that we aren't requiring, but we're highly recommending that they do, but they don't want to burn that material on their properties. It would be nice if we could build upon what the Forest Service is doing and have an area where
somewhere.
Yes, where they could haul slash materials, and we would have to have someone there screening the drop off those materials so they don't sneak tires or something like that in there, but have a place where we could have material.
The landfill has a place to burn. If people bring now.
But is it free?
Yeah.
See, I was not aware where that we had a place.
We're not charging for the.
And then, so if we had the place, then we would go out.
Well, you worked out with Brian to see what.
Yeah, so I could do that then if that's a possible.
Everybody knows where the land.
But if we had a place, then we can invite the public to go out there, drop their slash materials off, and then we could burn it at the right time of
There's
the
no
year.
trees around it to catch on fire, so it's a pretty good place.
Okay. And
That would bring up the point. I know when we burned those slash piles where we had all the debris come down, we asked forgiveness after the fact because as it turns out, Larry and I burnt those, but we were not certified burn bosses, and the fire was big enough to where we should have been.
Right, you gotta be ready to handle the
So
fire.
that would be, we got forgiveness once. The next time we might not get forgiveness. So we would need to address that beforehand. And to the best of my knowledge, nobody has.
So what you could do, if
Taken
you're
that
really
course.
serious about it, is take his advice and come up with what is the process, who's gonna do it. If there's a certain date, they're gonna actually torch it.
Yeah,
And
and we
we can
could
do is we got equipment out there and they might have to pull some more in to make it.
whatever we would do out there would be in full compliance with the law. And we would have a certified burn boss assigned to do that. Let's see what else I have. So
Good.
message signs, Breckenridge, HMP, study session. Just things that I'm working on. I have in my mind what I call a multi-purpose hangar concept. And so I'll be attending the meeting out there with the airport board. I think that's on the 17th. I'm going to attend that meeting. Along with that comes the concept of trying to get Jet A fuel out at the airbase. And we're going to look at that under both the hazard mitigation planning process, but there is monies coming available for Jet A fuel for helicopters out there that would help us in case of fires and things like that. It will also help SARS.
It will also help us get the Jet A for other purposes and team up with other funding sources.
But I've checked on this multi-purpose hangar concept. I call it kind of an EOC, a community meeting facility, a place for large board meetings, or having a vaccination clinic or emergency shelter. And that's why it's a multi-purpose concept. I've gotten some initial proposals because I've just gone out and looked at what that might cost. The prices are ranging from about $33 a square foot up to about $50 a square foot. These are temporary buildings, even though they can be placed permanently, but these are temporary buildings that the military uses. I'll send you some information on those. The concept, I'll just pass this quickly if I may.
How big are they?
So just look at that one little picture.
How big are they, Butch?
60 by 100 is the, so 6,000 square feet is what I've been kind of looking at. Structurally, they'll meet anything that we need. You can see this, the framework on the building. And one company will put the building up, and they said we could have it up in 2 to 3 weeks. And so their proposal actually included the erection of the structure and things like that.
That was in the 33, but
that was the 33.
That included the foundation.
No, it does not include the foundation or supports for that. But you know, you can put gravel initially down and anchor it into the you know, some concrete perimeter footings and things like that. So that's just a concept that I'm exploring. The reason the term temporary has to be in that because FEMA will not allow us to use COVID-related monies for permanent buildings, but they will allow us to use those for temporary buildings. So if you go back and look at our COVID response, you know, we needed to rent a hall. There wasn't places for you guys to meet safely and to have public meetings. This kind of facility would allow us to be able to do that. The other thing on my notes, I did not receive funding under the USDA grant. They gave me another opportunity to reapply for what they call pool funds. If you look at my note from May 10th, so I did that. I asked to be included in the pool funds, and we'll just have to see how that shakes out during the month of June.
Deadline to apply, is there, you already did it?
The application that we had already submitted is moved into the pool funding resources. And that's pretty much all I have, unless you folks have some questions.
I've got a couple quick ones.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Let me pull that document back up, sorry. On your come on your line May 18th of the report, I guess I don't know what a Tapco Gate is.
Oh, the Tapco Gate is an electronic gate. There are two gates on the North Creek Road, one on the Custer County side and one on the Pueblo County side. And what that is a gate that can be electronically raised and lowered to dissuade traffic from using.
What is that, rail that goes down?
Yes, it is. Kevin, you want to explain it? You're more familiar with it.
Yes, after the fire and our initial flooding, Pueblo County installed that gate for when they closed their side of North Creek Road going into Beulah. It is Pueblo County's gate, and it's set off, activated by them. They've had a lot of issues with that particular gate. Before I left Road and Bridge this last winter, there was probably a month when it was down the full time. And then when they had the flooding and they closed the road the other day on the 18th there, it did not activate.
So if we wanted to activate it, we have to call them to do it. Then if we had a reason.
It doesn't really do us any good because it's right on top of the hill there at North Creek. As soon as you drop down
so
the other side, basically, then you hit Pueblo County in about a mile.
Yeah.
So we don't have any control over it at all?
No.
Okay. And then my other question was.
You can get it shut though. We can call.
We can ask them to do it.
Yeah, we need.
Right, but we can't do it ourselves.
Right. The reason they put that in is because we didn't have the money. Pueblo County had the money, we didn't, because that was a point that was discussed in the commissioners meetings and all that with Bowie County, because they wanted us to buy one and then buy one to control that traffic, and we didn't have the money, so they bought it and installed it themselves.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
good information that I didn't
From the
have.
commission, with agreement from the commission and the prior OEM.
So we could shut it down for a reason that we would have if we wanted to.
All we gotta do is call them and they'll shut it.
Okay.
And then your last
It works.
sentence on May
Is it
28th,
working now?
Not that I know.
the VST, you mean the variable message sign?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yes. Any other questions?
None from me. Kevin, you got anything?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have a meeting, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so we'll have a discussion today, I'm assuming, about the policies.
Okay.
And forward that information on to you or whoever's gonna write that policy.
That
Is my-
sounds good.
You don't have anything to leave with us then?
No,
Good. Thank you, sir.
nope, don't have a policy yet.
Okay,
But
Thank you.
and I'd be more than happy once you make your decision and give me a little direction to write up a policy for
And,
you.
yeah,
okay,
some ideas.
Yep,
very good, sir. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, last item, consideration of that use policy for the variable message.
Whoa, whoa.
Yeah, kind of relief on that.
Oh, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm sorry. I jumped ahead because I checked the mark after which. All right, consideration of the kind of coronavirus relief fund. And that is related to some of the unclaimed ticket billing invoices that we had that didn't make it in time. And this was an opportunity to catch it up as part of this. Kevin, did you have anything else to add, or Tom, on the little bit of a heads up on the discussion here?
Well, I guess,
We had like 25K or something that we were not able to apply for.
I guess my question is, who's gonna do that? Who's gonna make application to
Well,
that?
I think the initial part comes from Braden, I think, because Braden was keeper of those issues. He had that up. I don't know. But from a
My
commercial-
understanding is that all the paperwork and documentation that Braden has is in that file cabinet.
That is correct, along with the thumb drive of all the files.
Are they?
Yes, I
Okay,
got that from Brady.
so I think right now, I don't know how much we funded that was eligible to be reimbursed. Roughly, I had heard 25,000 one time. I don't know what it is, but maybe we ought to, this discussion is just to decide to revive it or live with it. And I think it's worth looking into, especially given the salary thing we heard a few minutes ago on how we help supplement some of the money for the stuff that's been spent recently. Thoughts?
I believe if we still, which we should have, I mean, if we have our documentation, we need to figure out, there again, it goes back to Tom's point. We need to figure out who's gonna put that together and submit that. I know it was
Was there anything?
reimbursed to the people initially. Everything was spent thinking that it was coming out of that fund, and then some of the documentation was lacking, I believe. And so if there is an opportunity to resubmit with that documentation, I think it would be a good plan.
Was it anything, Tom, that was included in the towns that we got reimbursed or that we spent that would be useful? Maybe they could help us if it is.
I can't speak to that specifically. I thought it was mostly county expenditures.
I did too.
I would volunteer to do that.
If you got the time.
Well,
No.
what we get paid for, so I'll make the time. Unless somebody else wants.
Well, you were more heavily involved as the lead on that initially, but Braden has a lot of the history as well. But if you're volunteering, who's refusing?
I wouldn't expect anybody to, but you never know.
I think Shannon was ready to raise his hand. Saw him back there.
I move,
Really, you were thinking.
I move that we allow Tom to spearhead the resubmission of documentation for reimbursement for the coronavirus relief fund.
Outstanding fund or outstanding invoices or whatever. it is.
I'll second.
Well, let me second it because you're volunteering, so we'll make it a true volunteer that way.
Oh, so if you vote me to do it, I'm still
You're volunteering. See, that's right, dog. Put Tom down a second. I'm kidding. Been moved and seconded for Tom to take the lead on working the Corona Relief Fund charges that the county has not been reimbursed for. Okay, any other discussion? Clint, got any questions?
No,
You want to volunteer to help him?
I'll volunteer to take the money, but that's about it.
Okay.
Well, it's only 28,000, so it's probably not worth your time.
No.
Wait a minute, that's just pocket change.
Being a friend, he's right, yeah.
3.5 hours of work.
All right, any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Kevin?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Can I? Now can I do the policy for the variable message sign?
Yes, you can.
Can I? Oh, thank you. All right, let's consider the use of policy for the variable message signs. Got a little bit of a prelude to that with the discussion with OEM. We had discussed it before and asked for options on what that policy might look like. We do need it because we've had a lot of requests from different agencies to use it, as well as who knows what may come up in the future. So we've got to make sure we're keeping it in shape and doing the right thing. And they got to know where it's located, where you can post it, what kind of properties you can put it on, what rights of way, the highways have allowed for us to have, et cetera. So any other discussion up front before we get into it?
Well, yeah, I've tried to give this a lot of thought. Let's take CDOT's requirements out of the mix for a minute. Obviously, we bought those signs with COVID money for the purpose of dealing with COVID.
Mhm.
There was never any language specifically that said what we could and couldn't do. I think that was kind of an implied approval that we would use those signs for COVID. Nobody said we couldn't use them for anything else. But from a high altitude perspective, I don't believe we should use those as advertising signs for profit. I think that would be inappropriate. Sorry, I don't think we should allow for-profit entities to use those for advertising.
Commercial.
I'm still a little on the fence about nonprofits, whether they should be allowed to advertise their events or not.
Maybe a caveat on that would be if it impacts traffic and people here, it might be a good thing to have, depends on how big the event is.
Yeah.
Or what the value of that event
I
might
think
be.
the whole idea that Adrian talked about, warning the public that there's increased traffic or warning the public that Main Street is closed for a parade. Those kind of things I think are reasonable and would fall within our purview. To advertise a movie at the theater, I'm going to struggle with that a little. Even though that's a nonprofit organization, I don't think that was why we bought those signs. If it's a county event like we did with the fire, the fire workshops we just had, I think that's appropriate. I mean, we could what if the thing to death, but I think if we give Adrian, in my opinion, some overarching guidelines to what we think those signs should be used for and what we think they shouldn't be used for. And we need to do that relatively quickly so that somebody doesn't come and we turn them down and then they throw a big fit because we arbitrarily decided they couldn't use the sign. Those are kind of my major thoughts about it. I think probably Adrian, OEM, we originally said would kind of be the responsible department for those, and I don't have a problem with that at all. And consequently, I really wouldn't have a problem with OEM working on a set of policies. But then I thought, well, what if we decided we wanted to rent those signs out? Then that's a whole nother can of worms. If somebody wanted to pay us to use those signs, I guess they could kind of use them for advertising or whatever, but I don't know if we want to get into that business or not. So far, we've been lucky on vandalism. We've had one beer bottle thrown at the south sign. Didn't damage it any. We had to clean it up, but it didn't damage it any. So I was impressed with that, taking a beer bottle at probably 50
And been
miles
shot
an hour.
at either.
So, those are my opening thoughts anyway. I just, as long as COVID is in the mix, I want to honor what we took the $70-some thousand for, and that was for COVID messaging.
As long as it's not the last.
If we believe we have COVID messaging, then in my opinion, that takes precedence over anything else.
Sure.
I would agree. Like Shannon's sitting here in the room, which I don't think you touched on that, but I think if we had an incident, you could go to a major fire or you could go to a major accident. There might be a use for
Absolutely.
them. And in that case, accidents probably not so much, but I can see where there's incidents, even flooding, say down in Wetmore, or if we had some out here during spring or whatever that could be used. In
No, I
this
agree with you
as well.
100% there. Can I dovetail real quick? It's just a personal thought. I remember being highly irritated to drive halfway down the hardscrabble and find out it was
Gotta
closed
turn
because
around.
of an accident. See, it'd be a
Okay.
great opportunity to use those signs up here where people say, oh, okay, and they still have an option to go Rosita Road or whatever. I think any emergency type stuff falls within the realm of those signs.
Yeah, you hit on it. There are some accidents, like you remember the truck full of OSB that turned over south down here about 6 miles south. And we knew it was gonna be hours, so we could stick that up to tell people, hey, listen.
Load of pipe with.
Remember the load of onions that
Those
went
could be
down?
hours and
Any
hours.
fatalities could be hours,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it'd be great.
Well, and the onions that went down, everybody was high grade was down there stealing them
I was gonna say,
in the way.
that it was before.
So-
$50 a
So they
sheet.
were very
Yeah.
protective. They were protective.
So I might ask, and you said CDOT will throw them out the window for a second, but that brings up the question. I know we have permission at this point for them, for our messaging. I am assuming that's not an open-ended invitation to use that permanently.
No, it wasn't, and those were specific sites.
And
But I would think in this case,
for emergencies,
the other thing about CDOT, in the case of an emergency, I say we use them and deal with the fallout later. If there's a hazmat situation, a propane truck, whatever, we don't bother to call CDOT and ask them if we put our signs. We take them down there and put the messaging on them and deal with it.
I
Yeah,
don't
the
foresee
only-
a problem with
The only
that.
agreement we have with CDOT, it's a good one, is that they have allowed us by each year and renew it every year to allow us to put it in these locations that they've already pre-approved. Otherwise, like what Tom said, they would never object, I wouldn't think, to us saving some, life or some time with somebody or an accident or something.
So these locations we have are an annual renewal?
Yep.
Which would be good to do in regards to if you're setting them up to say, hey,
That's part of the policy, you have to say where you can actually do them. And in a county, you can put on any county. I mean, we could stick it by the rodeo grounds, for example. And that's something that we did do, for, I guess it was the rodeo last year.
so I would agree with you. If the county has control of them, I don't think that they should be put out for quote unquote advertisement purposes that way. Your statement as far as leasing them out, I hadn't even thought of that. So I really can't.
Yeah, you know, and I'm not a proponent of it, renting them out. Really, I just brought that up as a possibility that I think we need to talk about.
I think it is, it's my 2 cents worth. I like the idea, the policy including all county uses with the agencies, departments, whatever. The other county entities like the school, fire department, airport that might have an interest to get something not advertised, but noted that are relevant to some function that they got to have a lot of people at or need to, like we did with the fire mitigation thing.
But I don't think for a county-owned sign, for example, graduation, May 28th, 2 o'clock.
No, I was thinking more like a school event that is related to health fair or stuff like that. I mean, there's stuff that you want to share
that we're involved
in as a county.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page.
And the airport issues too, for example.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have their Airfest thing coming up. That's a county activity. It's on county property. It's a county board that's doing it.
Legitimate use.
Yeah.
Clint,
it would be advertising.
But that's on before you do that, Clint. I hadn't thought about the renting either, but there may be things that we could include that would be useful. Maybe it's some kind of an event that is that the county has some vested interest in. Maybe it's a bike rally that affects the tourism up here and the traffic that comes. Not advertising it for, and if they wanted to rent the sign for something like that, maybe that's something. Or we tax the tourism board.
Well, they're part of the county.
I know they are.
So, but I can see.
I'm looking at some other uses.
Bike race, road.
Yeah.
Left lane closed or whatever. To me, that's
legitimate.
more county business. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, CDOT has a policy and procedures regarding signs, including specifically about variable message signs here, and it talks about things just like that. For a planned event like a bike race or controlled burns can't be used for advertising.
Yeah.
But that would be a starting point, just to look
That
at
would be
that.
good. That's usually on the highways.
It's yes, for the state highways, which is where our signs always appear. So
Usually, but not necessarily.
Not
always.
exclusively, right?
Yeah.
They could be.
It could be by the rodeo ground saying, we get it through
if they're going to be put somewhere else on county roads, that's up to the county.
That's a good point to start with.
They do have it regulated here. So.
Where'd you find that so we can tell him?
It's CDOT guide signing policies and procedures. I mean, by Googling that, I would find it.
Which would apply if the signs are on state highways. Other than that.
It's up to us to.
Kansas said, yes.
For interstates, freeways, conventional highways, other state highways.
We had culvert washout, bridge failure, whatever, absolutely appropriate, and put them on the side of the county road. And I think that's.
So really then the policy should include the procedures of how you, as a road and bridge guy, would go get the sign with, and it doesn't need to involve us to approve it.
No.
It needs to, they know where they go, need to where to put it back, need to know how to turn it on. They gotta get certified to either hire Reggie to turn it on and type it in or something, whatever.
To me, that would be OEM's job.
Yeah, I know, I'm just kidding, but.
So, yeah, I think that he would include that in those policies as well. I worry about renting those signs out because once somebody pays for the right to use that sign, thank God we don't have one, but if Wetmore opened a strip club and now they wanted to rent the sign to
I
advertise
never know about
their
that.
newest business, I would probably be opposed to that. Not Wetmore having a new business, but advertising it on our sign. Because regardless of what's on the message, most people are going to tie that back to the county. They wouldn't know that was rented to
Well,
somebody.
that's for sure, because it's an official looking highway sign.
Right, exactly.
And I might address that as well.
The strip club or
The sign
that too.
itself, because we do have in our zoning policy, I don't know if it's zoning or land use policy,
planning and zoning, yeah.
that there is a prohibition to using a sign that uses blinking lights.
And
Every time that
sign,
changes.
But,
I
yeah,
don't
and
know.
that may be
So-
something we take to planning commission.
Other than, there's got to be an exception.
There's size restrictions too.
And it says here, for example, that the signs can be used for public service announcements, except for things like Amber Alert and fire danger warnings. They can just, you don't even have to get permission to put.
And by the way,
information up.
that restriction on the state was very adamant. They didn't care what West Cliff's size limits were. It's the right of way, and it can be the size that the state approves, not the town of West Cliff or the
Yeah.
county.
So you
State
take
regulations.
priority over all.
County
Right,
signs.
it overrides it, but the county policy would have to include, you'd have to get the exception to the blinking light.
To your point, though, maybe we ought to put that on Jackie's desk and ask her to take that to planning and zoning.
Yeah.
And I don't
Thought of
think,
that earlier.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I don't think as far as using it for the public service announcements and the emergencies, I don't think that would be an issue.
No.
The only time that might become an issue with something like that would be if we did decide to lease those out.
Right,
Right.
agreed,
Right.
agreed, which, again, I probably wouldn't support that, but then the other thing that I had thought about was, and this really, in my opinion, probably comes into the purview of the OEM of the actual wording on there. Eventually, we're going to be held accountable to whatever messaging is on those signs. So I think if we have an understanding with OEM, obviously it needs to be appropriate. You know, we're not out trying to win a comic contest or try to be cute. We're trying to conduct business here, right? We don't get many lines. So, you know, that's just a kind of an internal thing. I think we need to have a
You
conversation.
can't have anything if you spell it backwards. It's, you know, forecasting doom.
Although that one I understand on our COVID message did receive quite a bunch of responses.
Yeah, we got lots of responses.
Which one was that?
What did it say?
Stop for a shot.
Yeah.
Stop for a shot.
Shots on the house.
Shot here, a
COVID
shot on
shots
the house.
Yeah.
Come in and stop
Shots
for a
on the house.
COVID shot.
And the one that
That was
was
a good one.
referring
Well,
to
we
the
were getting lots of
gamers,
questions
it
about
had
the cost.
gaming lingo on it, which addressed the younger population as far as the
Fine.
shots. Nothing inappropriate, but it did catch them. So, but in regards to your comment on
Yeah.
sometimes to catch the attention, you have to say something a little
Different.
less bland, I guess.
Witty.
Well, less bland things get overlooked too. So there's, you know, it's a fence you walk. Depends on how bad you want people to read it. Okay, so I hear a motion to ask OEM to come up with a policy that includes government agency uses and a policy that allows for use on county land as well as state use. It'll be a little bit different. And that we will refer OEM for the, to pull that together, use CDOT as, that's not part of the motion, it's my discussion now, for a guide to start with. So I move that we have OEM look into, recommend a county policy for the use of our variable message.
I'll second that.
Can I make a comment? Once the second thing, can I make a comment?
Yeah, it's been moved and seconded to have OEM work the policy. So discussion.
In the policy, you might want to have them consider, I don't think it's prudent that, to my knowledge right now, Adrian's the only one that deploys those and knows how to do that.
No, there's 3 people.
There are 3 people. Well, it might be prudent that we share that information.
Well, that's a good point, Shannon.
Because I would.
You wouldn't know who to go
And
contact.
if I can get a hold of Adrian, I mean, I think there needs to be multiple
That's in
people
the
that can deploy it.
And there ought to be a policy that says there will always be multiple people involved in how to check those.
Yeah, I mean,
Even the
however-
names listed will always be
However,
available.
it's worked out. I mean, it's just.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we probably need to put who the administrators of that side would be.
And you might want to think about somebody from the sheriff's office, because unless whoever's on that list likes coming out on a Sunday.
Well, you're always on duty. That's right.
Right, there's somebody from the sheriff's office.
Would you have a recommendation from the sheriff's department?
Well, I think maybe you just put one designee from the sheriff's office, or, sheriff's office personnel. I don't think we want to name someone because personnel change and all.
Right, you'd go to the office to find out who it is. You want to check the sign.
Whatever your thoughts are on that. It's just,
Yeah,
I apologize. I didn't realize that there was more than Adrian.
well, there is, and it just happened because everybody wanted to get involved in that, so.
And we checked a couple people out on how to title man. Well, I'll take on in this discussion. I will relay this to Adrian, what we've discussed for him to consider as a separate action.
Okay, yeah, sheriff's office needs to have access. Road and bridge would need to. Of course, Adrian, possibly even Wet Mountain Fire. Might need access to it.
Wet Mountain Fire or Wetmore Fire?
Both.
Possibly both. Wetmore would have to get, somebody from up here would have to take it down anyway. So
Oh, Wetmore wouldn't come up here and get them and take them down?
we could, but if they had the
They would call
permission to
you.
do so or something, but chances are somebody from up here could take it down faster if it needed to be put out.
Facetious about your
But
crap.
I've got fire departments down here.
Unless you want to store one down there.
Wait a minute, I hear a request.
Which is a possibility.
That's where the rent comes in.
Yeah, we bought them for the 3 highways, so. Yeah, I think search and rescue, any emergency services entity.
So
Don't you guys?
I think so.
When we talk about
and
county.
Wetmore shop might not be a bad place
Well,
to
but
store one
fire
of those.
department's not a county agency.
No,
so-
but I got fire departments as a separate.
Search and rescue, can't
I
think.
mean, you don't want to have everybody, you don't want to have 15 people, and there's got to be a policy.
No.
Some way that, like, if one's being used, that as time allows, you have to notify Adrian, and it's so that, because I'm assuming Adrian's kind of responsible for them overall.
That's what we agreed on,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah,
That
so-
should be written in the policy.
Just
too.
common courtesy to let the OEM know, hey, listen, we had to take this out for a traffic accident or whatever, just so you.
What I'll take to Adrian on that conversation is, I think we need at least 3 designees so that anybody of these agencies or the fire departments, we'll name them airport or whatever, can call and get it in a timely manner.
Yeah, and hopefully that would
And fire,
channel through OEM.
right.
Adrian,
He ought to be the,
contact person.
It's just the poor guy shouldn't have to answer his phone.
Right.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the time. I mean.
and your guys are always be the
We also
permanent
somebody
member of
around.
that committee.
Yeah.
He's not opposed to calling commissioners on that schedule.
Well, that's okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Anybody ever close to that?
Yeah, there's nothing sacred with Sundays about him, I can tell you that much.
To make you feel good. I can call you on Sundays too.
Yeah, you should. And we can go for lunch or something. But yeah, I think he should be the initial point of contact, have some 2 other designees. I would think
Yeah,
sheriff
yeah.
would be,
He's a permanent contact.
yeah. And then IT was involved just because of the messaging.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? We can move on.
Yeah, because they're brand new, maintenance is not an issue. What are we gonna do if the sheriff's department takes it on the scene and it gets plowed into? Insurance would cover that,
But then it's up to Adrian to initiate the process to replace it.
if it gets a flat tire, who's gonna pay for that? Or the tail light gets knocked out, we're not gonna turn that into.
That'd be like any county equipment.
Normal maintenance, see, that's gonna have to come out of, I mean, it's countywide, so I'm assuming that will have to come out of county general.
General fund maintenance. All right, anything else?
Well, we got this big pissing match over insurance with the fire department. That's why I bring it up. Fire department borrows it, gets trashed, run off the cliff.
But that's.
I'd say non-county entities have to be responsible for that.
If like another agency that's not county, then they would be on their liability.
Twin Mountain Fire is not a county.
Right,
that's my point.
And they flat said they're not turning the concrete into their insurance company. See, so.
But they ended up paying.
They did pay for it.
They did.
Their share.
Because they realized it was partial damage. It was theirs.
So I just think we ought to have some wording in there, non-county entities.
We'll assume liability on when
For
they
any damage.
That's pretty straightforward. I'll make sure that's.
Yeah, it won't be straightforward if it's not in there.
No, that's what I
my
mean.
point. Yeah, if you're gonna
The
talk.
point was if it's in there, it's pretty
Yes,
straightforward.
exactly. Agree 100%.
And then we can look at this document after he puts it together and see.
Right.
Well, he's gonna come to us with a
It's just
recommendation.
And I think there ought to be some language in there about priority of use. Emergencies, of course, in my opinion, would take priority over somebody directing traffic.
Priority.
If it was, let's say it was set up for the parade and now we gotta roll over somewhere with a fatality, they can just go get it, change the messaging. But
So we can
it's not in there.
caveat that emergencies will always take priority. The others will be determined by the OEM as they.
Yeah, this is the only micromanaging I want to do, and
right,
except for
I don't wanna see
adopting
it.
the policy. Yeah, I don't want to make those decisions. That's not our job. in my opinion, but-
So if it's out on an emergency and you got 3 requests from other agencies and there's 2 signs, he'll have to say, you get it
Right.
first.
Right, yeah. And I would trust him with that.
Yeah. All right. Call for the vote. All in favor of having OEM develop the policy to propose a policy for the variable sign messages to us, say aye. Tom?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Canada, aye. All right. Additional items of business. Tom, you got the floor for the, what was it? The Frederick Pohl's
Yeah.
meeting we're gonna have to discuss things here.
So at some point, I think we have to step up and have a discussion with Frederick Poland about that disaster. That is not a committee issue. We were the ones that paid them to do that.
Right. That's
They
why.
worked through the committee. I understand all of that,
Yeah.
but just an absolute debacle. And clearly they know that, or he wouldn't have put that statement in that last email about as soon as we get copy of the check cut to us, then we'll have a discussion. Well, that's a bunch of crap.
You know how I got around that one? I just said, okay, we have the money. I've got the picture of it and I sent him a picture and I've got the check. So we're not gonna give it to him, or we'll give part of it, or we won't give it at all.
So the check hasn't been mailed.
No.
Part of it has, correct? It was
Well, the first payment
15,000.
was given, the 7,500 was given a long time ago in order to get it started.
Okay.
By
I
contract.
assumed when we approved the vouchers, the check was mailed. You're saying that's not the case.
No, I've got it right here. The hard copy of it. And I said, listen, you work for us. The contract said he needed that before they would release it, but they released it. And then I said, we have to have this discussion. And this is not a committee discussion. This is the commissioners meeting.
That's exactly why I brought it up. This doesn't do the committee.
That's right. And this meeting on Thursday is not a committee meeting. It's our meeting to hammer them and get the details from them why. You saw the questions that they thought they answered. It's not to our satisfaction. And it was a big mess and I went through it with Nate, John, the Brits, and Keith, all 3. and hammered on them. And Nate was pleading the fifth because he said, well, that's, you know, he can't understand why they did that, blah, blah, blah. But so they took it on, both Brits and Keith did. And I wanted them all here in person, but because of the holidays with Amanda gone, a lot of people gone, and them, that they themselves, the reason it's at 4 is because Keith Frederick wanted to delay it to the middle of the month with it, after we were already trying to figure out what we're going to do with it on a ballot. So the big meeting that was confusing is going to do that. It's going to take our input that we get from our discussion tomorrow on what we think the value of that was or wasn't, and how we're going to move forward would be our discussion to understand that, and then it'll be up to how we go forward later with that data, one way or the other.
Who's at this meeting tomorrow?
There's 10 people. The 3 commissioners. We've got Shannon, Amanda. Lisa Rowe is not going to be there, but she was invited to look at it from a district point of view. Ann Barthrop, Steve Bauer, and Feltman, who were the ones that were dealing directly with them and trying to get them to understand what our requests were. And then there's me. So that's the 10 people in our meeting. And
Well, they're not gonna get a pass from me. I'll tell you, I am wound
they
up.
get
about
one from
this.
me here. I mean, I was appalled when I heard the guy talking on the phone. You know, I called in.
You called to them or they called you?
No, I didn't call in. I'm sorry. They called our place.
Okay. Did they call your place?
I believe they did, but I was under the understanding it would show as a local number, and I believe it came through as a Colorado Springs number.
It did.
So on those types of calls, I let it go to the answering machine. So I did not get a call.
I never got bombarded like some people did. And our answer machine would click on and off on every call that ever came in. We didn't. And then we were gone. But and then I know that Buck Wenzel told me that he had a guy he couldn't understand on the phone. And they had a barrage of calls. I mean, I had many people calling, about 29 calls. Can you call them, tell them to quit calling us?
Right.
And I did call them immediately when I found that out. And they said, well, we're not doing that. It's not us. It's somebody hacked it. It was their first answer. And then when I called back, they pulled the poll out. They didn't announce that the poll was over. And there were people, according to Ann, and that's why I wanted to make sure we got her input, that people wanted to make input because they saw some value in it, because they'd seen some of the stuff that's been going on, not because they were annoyed. It was wanted to get honest input into what they thought, whether it was pro or against. So that was wrong. I thought they should have told us so we could field the calls.
Well, they misrepresented the poll too, because when they showed us the question, they never asked that they were going to ask about age, political affiliation, any of those things. I have an employee,
and he said he did,
that got called by them 7 times and spoke with them 4 times. At least 2 different gentlemen on the phone. One spoke English better than the other, neither of them well.
Yeah.
But when they got to the political affiliation, he's like, I don't understand what this has to do with them. I'm not going to answer that. And they said, well, if you don't answer, we're not going to continue the poll.
Right.
He said, I told you I'm not answering it. And then they said, okay, thanks. And then they called him back 10 minutes later to do the same thing.
The other question I have,
7 times.
How did they get the numbers to call? And I had understood it was the voter rolls, and then somebody says just the Republicans. I don't think that's true, but it might have been.
No, I don't believe that's true either. I don't know that.
I hope not.
All I can go on is what they told us they were,
Mhm.
and then subsequently what happened.
Right.
And those two do not line up.
They do not. I got multiple calls from wet morons that received multiple calls. Hard to understand because the people did not speak English very well. Very poor phone connections.
Yeah.
I've had people that answered the poll more than once because they were contacted more than once and did answer it. I
And I
had
wonder if
them
it
where they
counted. We need to
hung
find out
up
if that counted.
as soon as they refused to answer the political affiliation
Yeah.
question. And then had them to where they said, don't call me back anymore. And then they told them, well, we'll call you back tomorrow.
I had one guy on that
Oh.
issue say when they asked about the political affiliation, and he said, I'm not gonna give it to you, the guy hung up.
Yeah, I've had that same complaint that they were being hung up on. And to your point, we were told that there would be a 719 number. That was it. It wasn't a local number. It was a 719 number, which it was.
I think it was.
So that's my.
But they never said it was going to be a 783 number. He said, no, we can't do that. Just be 719.
The technology, they said, wasn't there to allow that.
But yeah, I will play a voicemail that I got tomorrow during that meeting.
Good,
No
you got
question.
it. That's great.
Just people pissed off. And I sat right here and said, if this poll, in my opinion, is the reason we don't get this passed, I will be livid, and I'm livid because it didn't do us any good.
See, and I don't know how we can sort that out either, Tom, when you think about it, because there were people that took it and did it honestly, and then there were some that said, I'm gonna call them back, I'm gonna take it and I had that in an email, just to go against it, I'm gonna be against it now.
Yeah, I've had multiple people say, I'll never vote for that because of that poll. Now, multiple
Whether that's
people may
me or
not,
not, we don't know.
but it just absolutely was counterproductive to what we wanted to do. If I had to vote today, I'd vote not to pay them the other $7,500 because I'm not satisfied with the performance we got. And 100 voice responses, you probably didn't see that. I think we got 101 telephone responses out of 5,000 people.
I think it was more.
Well, there you go, people.
They said it.
I know very few people that
The
actually
latest-
got to do the poll.
The latest number I got was 220, I think.
That was, there was a split. There were almost as
Online
many on
and-
social media as
I
there
thought there
are
was
on the
more.
link.
Well, we'll see. We'll get the real numbers from them tomorrow. But here, you know, what I'm not sure of is how, if you keep doing a poll normally and you start going up, you get to a point where it plateaus out, no matter how much more you add, it doesn't change the result enough. I'm wondering if there's enough people that got torqued enough that would skew it, but that if you've got enough more than that it would balance it out, whether you could trust it or not. They said normally, wouldn't they say 60 calls is all they needed? So we got more than double of that, but I want to push them hard on that. What bullet? And the other thing that torqued me off was Frederick's attitude and John Britt's. They were both, you guys, like they were in charge. It doesn't matter what you're saying.
We tried to tell them and they didn't.
Even during the meetings, but I'm talking on the phone call when I'm trying to get them to straighten out and shut her down. I mean, they were very rude, very bad. They were bad to Nate himself. Nate gave up trying to get him to do anything. So they said, I'm going to step out of the middle. You call them directly. And so I had to deal with them directly, and they were just big snobs.
Yeah, I had my numbers backwards. There's 101 online responses and 151
Right, there's a
interviews
couple
were completed.
Yeah.
So, and they told us originally if we had, what was it, 200, 200, oh, I thought it was more than that, but they didn't
Maybe
expect
60.
much, and now I know why.
Well, it wasn't up for 2 weeks.
No, it's
that's
only
the
up for
other
3
thing.
days or 4 days.
He
whatever.
said, Monday, the 20th, the first 9 interviews starting at 7 PM. And then,
Yeah, it was shut down on the 25th, I think.
well, I'm looking, I thought he said, but.
Because when I called them, they'd already shut it down the second time I called back. What'd you shut it down for?
Yeah, I thought I read somewhere, but,
I think it was around the
24th
24th or 5th.
oh, here, we turned off the URL on the morning of the 24th.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Well, if they open it on the 20th and they close it on the 24th, that sure as hell.
And that's my point. It's 4 days. We got a lot of people calling, I can't get to the website. People were wanting to get in. And then Bartha was bombarded with those calls.
I didn't even know it was going on until a lady called me and she was upset because she had gotten, she said, I've had all these calls every day. And she said, when I answer, the first thing they want to know is my political affiliation.
Right.
And so she was upset. And I tried to get into the poll to look at it to see, because I thought, why are they asking? And I couldn't get the link to work.
Yeah, I cannot believe they're in business.
Right. So his one statement, any complaints about other phone numbers or multiple calls on days we did not interview are not attributable to our survey. Well, wait a minute.
That's a point.
If there's multiple calls, and I heard the thing, and I think Kevin, you might have mentioned, well, maybe somebody's calling in just to combat the survey. I don't believe that, hell. It's not that big of a deal where somebody's just gonna say, I'm gonna
Right.
bastardize this whole poll by just start calling random people. I just don't buy that.
And it would only been one or two anyway.
Because
I think what he means there though, Tom, too, is they said it was only programmed to call that number 3 times, period.
that was our
People
agreement.
were doing it,
Right.
people were doing it until 29 times.
Right.
Well,
They told us, we will make 3 attempts
Didn't
per
he say
phone
that in
number,
that
and that's
too?
it. And then the other thing we were told was that they were gonna call every registered voter in this county. Well, I know for a fact that's not true.
hmm.
And then Jordan Benson, I had lunch with him one day and he was on, and he said, I'm filling out the survey. He said, I was told that they were gonna call anyone who registered to vote via a phone. We never had that conversation. I didn't know you could register to vote through your cell phone.
You can't.
So
You
that's
can't do that.
crap.
That was nonsense.
And the
they
registered
gave them
voters that we have in the county, I've got phone numbers for maybe a quarter of them
Okay.
because they don't want to give their phone.
Yeah, I don't know
number.
where, they gave them the voter list, you know, our.
We didn't give them a voter list.
No, but Ann, I thought, got a registration list and they were gonna look up numbers. I don't know what, we need to ask. I don't know how they got them.
Well,
Did they use the phone book? The phone book doesn't have any home phones anymore.
I'm assuming we are paying for a fourth party to conduct that poll, and that's that company out of Florida.
What do you mean?
All the calls were made from Florida.
Oh, yeah. Well, they paid for it. They didn't do it. They subcontracted.
But again, that's
You're
right. We just lose more control every time they subcontract something, which we never talked about that, right? Frederick Poll was gonna do the polling.
Right.
I don't believe that happened either. I think they hired a
Well,
call
that's
center
true,
in
that-
Florida to do the poll.
I asked that question and they said that's who they hired. And they said, we expect them to get callers lined up, people that do the calling
Yeah.
off their professional list.
I think Frederick Poll finalized the poll and sent it to another
They
company to do
analyzed
it.
it.
And they're charging us $15,000 for that. And I don't think it's right. So,
Well, that's the problem. We had a contract, we hired them and they did it their way.
did you ever see the poll before it went out, the final poll, written poll?
No.
I did not either.
I did not, and I did not think somebody butchered did the calling.
Maybe it wasn't you that mentioned it to me then. Somebody did. And I just thought, no, I can't buy into that.
Well, we got an opportunity because Keith Frederick's the guy that analyzed it. He took it. I don't know how Brits fits in. To tell you the truth. He
really doesn't. He's the finance person.
And then Nate just let them both. That's who Nate, as a company, used to hire until they had to get the whatever caused them to split legally because they couldn't do it and still sell their bonds.
Well, I've had 2 or 3 lunches with Nate. I like the guy personally, but this is business, man. I'm telling you, we just got hosed.
Well, let's see what they say.
Yeah.
I think from what I'm hearing, we're all in agreement in this room that we did not get what we asked for.
I agree.
And
And they just have to answer for that.
I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like that.
I will,
In the Air Force, we'd have fired them.
I will go to bed and sleep
Wouldn't
very
pay them.
well knowing that you still have that check. I thought it was mailed to them.
I wasn't gonna give it to them.
There's nothing we can do about that.
I called him.
I had to cut it.
I saw the copy of that come through on the email and I called and asked if he still had it. So
Yeah, I had to do that in order to get him to talk.
Yeah,
And then.
yeah, which provide me with a proof of the second half payment and then I'll talk to you. That's a bunch of crap.
That's nonsense. That was, how arrogant is that? Did you see that?
Johnson as well.
Yeah,
There it is.
yeah,
Color
because
coded.
I'll have a conversation with Bob
Yeah.
Johnson. I'll let him know the troubles we've had because they're the ones that work with those guys as well. And so,
and he recommended it.
Yeah, that's who he works with.
So, well, I'm glad you represented us well holding on to that check, sir. My compliments. Because if it had gone out in the mail last Friday.
I chewed their butts out on their voice messages and they finally, I said, listen, we're your customer, and we have the money. And I don't care what the contract says. But I'm telling you, he dug in hard.
No kidding. Wow. Well, they do it for a living, so they know a hell of a lot more about how to get around objections than we probably do, but they're gonna hear them from me. So, okay, that's all I have, sir.
Anything else?
Nothing here.
Any other, Shannon?
I have a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. First off, so do we have a maintenance request procedure in place again? Or
It's in the mailbox of the
Yes.
treasurer's office,
what do you mean?
the form.
What are you looking for? What's your
So
question?
we have to walk over here and get one. We can't just fill it out electronically and email it to somebody?
I don't know. I don't think it ever got made electronically, not that I'm aware of.
Well,
I've got an electronic copy of it when I developed it, but I never dispersed that.
I don't know that Dave's not very computer.
Well, so the question comes down to, it came up 3-4 weeks ago to you guys about that we have a patrol room that has no lights in it. And y'all were gonna work on an electrician or something to get that remedied.
Right.
And so finally, there's been no lights in there, none.
They haven't gotten- nobody's gotten-
There's been no lights. And so I finally sent a deputy on duty to Canyon City to go get lights. And then I wired 2 of them so that they would at least have lighting in there, but we still don't have lights. It needs to be fixed.
I still think we need a maintenance contract yearly.
And I get it, we can talk about it to death, but it's something that needs to be done.
Well, something has been done. It's just still in the process of being done. So
Okay.
let me tell you that. I'm going to try to look it up while we're talking here.
Okay.
So I've been working with Mike. He's the one that brought it to my attention.
Dickens, yeah.
No, Mike Halpin.
Okay.
And I said, okay, so I won't take time to look it up. I'm sorry, because I can't do both. So I emailed the contact person of the company that did the lighting. And I said, we got 4 lights out, 4 of 4 lights out in the patrol room at the sheriff's office. We need to replace those. Okay, now I sent him that email. A day or 2 later, he emailed back and he said, I did some checking. I will get those lights replaced under warranty. I sent him back and I said, okay, when's that going to happen? I'm not sure. I'm working on that. That's really the last conversation or communication I've had with him, but, oh crap.
Okay. Well, like I said, I sent a deputy to Canyon City to go buy some lights so that we could at least have lighting in there.
And
I don't think it's prudent that I'm the one doing
No, it's
electrical
not.
work in the sheriff's office, but this isn't something that should be waiting 3 weeks
Right.
for, or 4 weeks, or however long
Don't they have a phone number?
until they can get to it.
yeah, I've got his phone number too. I can't even think of his name right now,
That's
but
fine. I just
Look it up.
wonder what we do, what are we doing here?
yeah, so we are doing something. It's not happening as fast as it should be, Shannon. It's not, we just blew it off and ignored it.
Okay, fair enough.
But to your point, which is a good point, you gotta have lights in there for crying out loud. So I should have been a little more proactive in saying, well, if it's gonna take a week, forget it. I'll just go buy the lights.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
what we
even know
should have
what
done.
it cost. The receipt went to
Uh,
Paul, but but now that comes out of my budget.
Well, their special lights, those things cost quite a bit.
I don't know.
So-
I didn't care at this point. I want the lights in there.
No,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the point is, you need to be reimbursed.
Well, and the problem is that one of the lights was kind of working, and then, so I messed with the
Thought
rest,
you had
and then they're all
6.
flashing, and
Right.
so then I wired 2 in, but now one just won't work. Well, I don't know, have any idea why. I don't know if it's light, I don't know if it's electrical. Quite honestly, I'm tired of being the maintenance
be the
man over
guy.
there. I'm not gonna do it anymore.
Right. Yeah, and to Chairman Candace's point, maybe we need to contract with a maintenance person and then we retain Dave as a yard man or we let him go. I don't know what that looks like, but
Or I would prefer to put on contract an electrician, a plumber separately, all separate contracts, let them bid on it for the year. Electrician, HVAC.
That'd be great, because we'd save.
That way, then everybody can just call that guy, he's on contract already, and then parts and materials and labor that are paid for.
yeah, and I guess Dave, we knew he had certain limitations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you try to call a plumber as a county and say, we need you to fix a toilet in the sheriff's department tomorrow. That ain't happening.
Well, that's what you negotiate with.
So we do.
Front.
We have a plumber that comes.
So
The
that,
day you call him.
yeah.
Typically, yeah.
If and that's what you throw in the
Stop and come.
contract.
Because he knows we're gonna pay the bill, and
The county calls you haul and you put that would be a priority. We're not gonna sit and wait for you to schedule 60 days later.
the plumber does a really great job for us. We've just not had that luck with the, I knew you were gonna ask that.
Because I got a call in for an electrician and a plumber.
I can have somebody holler at you and let you know who that is. He's done really well for us.
Yeah, I would support that because I think we all know Dave can't do that stuff. I got a call on Sunday.
Right.
Your faucet's in. I said, I didn't order a faucet. Yeah, it's for the county. I said, well, the county ordered a faucet. Yeah, he called me at home on Sunday. So, he can do some of that stuff.
Sure.
We won't have to hire a plumber to do
And
that.
even if one of those back heaters go out, we can't wait 6 months for a bid to go out to redo it.
So then, not to belabor it, but do you put that person on a retainer or do you
No.
just have an agreement?
No, you have
We
the
will pay you
contract.
when we need
That's
you?
right. You will be our.
Because we got somebody on a retainer and look what he does. Reads his email during the meeting.
Or he's not there.
Or, oh, he's not here. But initially, I wasn't real thrilled about that idea, Bill, but I think the more we talk about it, the more
It's the right thing to do.
I think so, and I don't think that takes our maintenance job away. I mean,
There's
you
still a guy
can't
cutting grass.
expect Dave to be able to wire lights. You can't expect him to be a certified plumber. I mean, there are certain things that can be done. You can change the bulbs out, this and that, but when you start getting into the electrical boxes, liability wise, we need to have somebody that is licensed and insured and,
Well, it's the same with the light in the entryway where the water leaked on it.
Right, burned it out.
He kept saying, I need to replace the bulbs, and I kept telling him, they're not
Yeah,
regular
they're not
bulbs, they're those.
See, we had a light go out too, and same thing, yeah.
They don't last very long.
Covered on warranty.
They're
Well,
supposed to last 10 years.
Yeah, they don't.
So I think
Well, when water runs.
supposedly they had
Can't.
a batch that were bad or something. I don't know. But
Well, that's a wiring issue too.
so.
So just not to belabor the point, because I can be late.
I will make a note of that.
Do we have someone that we're retaining that does all the maintenance on all the HVAC units and air movers and like?
That's the problem.
Okay. But
If we did, you could call him and.
I got that brand new one that we got, last year, a year before that.
You got a problem with it?
So we're not having to replace. No, it's working fine as far as I know, but I don't know when the last time the filter was replaced in it. I don't know.
Right, now these new ones that we put in, they did come with a contract, but I can't tell you if it's 1 or 2 years, but no, we don't have anybody.
But they won't replace filters all routine. That's different.
These new ones, that
Well,
was
they,
part
that
of
wasn't
it.
good.
He said he would change the filters.
So we'd be looking at electrical, plumbing, HVAC.
And there's one other special, just a normal contractor, a builder to put in a petition or fix a wall or fix a leak. They need somebody on contract to do that as a priority. So that's the 4 specialties that I came up with.
One last thing, then I'll leave you guys alone. So just gonna give you a heads up. Because you need a heads up. So we don't have any, we have exhausted any resources, any avenues to fix the locks in the jail.
Yeah, you were saying
It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. So we're gonna have to replace them. And that bid came in north of $100,000. I know what you want to do.
So here,
Because
that
the
was-
problem is, it's not the locks, it's the system.
Right.
And the system is tied to the fires, to the fire alarm box.
It's not just simply
And so-
replacing a mechanical.
That's
piece.
exactly right. So it all has to be rewired and all this stuff. And the problem was, is they put in a system that was essentially out of date.
Obsolete.
Yeah, obsolete, thank you, gosh, I don't know where that word was. So the system was essentially obsolete when they put it in brand new in 1996.
Wow.
So the parts just aren't there. And the company that put it in, Johnson Controls, when they came out, they were like, when was this put in? And we said 96 was in the building, and they're like, no, this system was not 96. This system is 85, 88. So it was already old. And they don't work the way they do now. So the whole system has to be replaced. I don't know what to do, guys. So we have to get this fixed. We have a cell we cannot use. It's dead. We are not allowed, my detention area is
All
not
more
allowed
reason
to
to
put
get
anybody.
25K.
It's too dangerous.
So a question, very pointed question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer. You're not gonna pull the trigger on this, but.
No.
Okay.
You guys have to authorize that. It's your
It's
jail.
our.
And I don't mean to be like that, guys, but it's your jail. You're the ones that ultimately, if somebody gets killed in there, it's you.
Okay, so that,
No, I'm not pulling the
Okay.
trigger. I'm just saying, heads up, we're gonna have to,
we gotta do
we
something.
gotta figure something out here. And look, I mean, for 9 months, 10 months now, my guys and gals have been, we've tried to get the Department of Corrections to help us out. We've tried to get the feds to help us out. Any of their locksmiths, they're like, nope, that system
Well,
is
Shannon, get
out of date.
get the data to us, get the real number, so we.
I have it, I have the quote.
Send it over to
Shoot
us.
that to us.
And
Now,
get it on
mind
the
you,
agenda.
it's a year old, so I don't know,
Well,
update
Update it because we need it.
So then the next question is, understand the need. I've been there, we've all been there, so we understand the need.
Right. I agree.
Where does the common sense come in?
I agree.
I personally don't think we can just keep kicking the can down the road on the possibility of getting a new justice center. In reality,
By the
that's
time
probably
we
3
get it-
years down the road anyway, right?
Even if it's a year, it's too late.
It may be pouring good money after bad if we do get a new jail system, but if we don't, it would be pouring good money after a good need. That's where I look at it.
Well, you're pouring money after bad no matter what,
Well,
because all you're doing is you're spit polishing
It's just
71 Penta.
But there's no way, Shannon,
But you
that
still
you
gotta
can
drive.
you're not using it as a cell. Is it interfering with the safety of the fire now? with-
No, the fire alarm system.
So the issue is whether you get crowded or not, and you can limp along a little while.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, but we're gonna fill up.
Right.
And so.
Or be paying Fremont County.
Yeah, right.
So that is a possibility, right? I mean, if we just said, no, we're not spending the money,
Yes, it is.
then we got to.
Then we got to put the
We gotta
bill
do
to go
something.
down to Fremont County. Gas.
Yeah, it's just the logistics of
Rent.
moving back and forth.
You're losing a deputy that could be out doing
Yeah,
something.
and quite honestly, we'll triple stack them if we have to, but at some point, I mean, we've had 18 people in that jail before.
And that's going to
Does
cause
sell out
problems eventually.
With the cell
Oh, it does,
gone?
does it? Huh?
Was the cell out then?
No,
So fourth of
Now,
that.
I thought,
that's 3 to a 7, which that means there's one sleeping on the floor in a sled.
I thought you had 2 cells that are currently not usable. Is that true?
No, one's not usable. The other one, we're trying, I mean,
Trying not to.
we use a lot of WD-40 on it.
Okay.
Just trying to keep it,
Breathe life into it.
well, WD-40 transmits electricity.
So the 100 grand would only fix one cell?
No.
Or it's new
whole
locks
system.
throughout?
New system, there's 10 locks in the jail. And then the alarm system, the fire alarm system,
And that would
and
take care
the
of
master control unit and all that.
new control.
But see, the
unit.
problem is, so that's all kind of I don't want to get into the weeds too much. It's kind of an analog system. And so, you physically push a switch, it unlocks the door. They don't do that anymore.
Right.
They don't even make them. You have to, now it's all run through a computer system. That's where you start getting
But my point was, your quote for 100 grand would replace all of that,
The whole
not
thing.
just fix
the
one.
whole
cell.
thing.
Has to be compatible. You can't just wire something.
Right.
That system, would that be
Well, I think we need to talk finance
with a computer system?
myself, but
We gotta look at that.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second
I
it.
don't know.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Kevin?
Does Shannon get to vote on adjourn? Aye.
And aye. Shannon?
Shannon's leaving because he has another meeting.
Yeah, I'm 30 minutes late to mine, so I went off on record yesterday. You bet. Shannon, good to see you.
Have a nice day.
See you, Bean.
Spin them down, number one.
So while you're on this, is that on?
Sure. Please.